This is the Patriots Catch-22 podcast with Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I'm Evan Lazar. Evan Lazar. Hello, everybody. Nailed it. Joined as always by our Barth. That's a fit. That's a match. No risk it, no biscuit.
22.
Here is Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
What better? You have two guys with rocket arms to have a rocket scientist teach them how to go about their game, right? So
How long have you been rehearsing that one?
I came up with it about 10 minutes after they signed him.
Yeah.
I
I think we have to talk about the Cooper Cup of it all. Cup check, if you will.
How long you been holding on to that one?
I thought of that one last night.
22.
A rare double cut for the opener.
A rare time where we both kind of made the same joke, but not exactly.
Those are good lines.
I feel like we don't really have the same sense of humor.
No.
I think we have very different jokes or attempts at jokes.
Well, I told a joke very similar to one you told about a week ago, and you got very annoyed. We don't need to bring that one on the air, but
I don't even know
about
what
the
you're
fast
talking
food restaurant.
Oh yeah, because it just wasn't funny.
Anyway,
It just wasn't a funny joke. Like some of the Josh Allen one is funny.
read the things.
That's funny.
Read
this
the
one's not
things.
funny.
Of course
Hey,
he brings it
Patriots
back to
fans,
Josh
if you
Allen.
want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals for the official vehicle of the New England Patriots. Toyota, let's go places. Hello, everybody. It's Evan Lazar. It's Alex Barth. It's Patriots Catch-22 with you for the next couple of hours, talking Patriots offseason, free agency, things still happening. Last night, actually, something happening with the Patriots that is notable. So we'll get to that here in a second. I'm sure we'll talk plenty of draft. And we are at the point of the draft cycle.
It is draft season.
It's draft season for everybody now, which is the time where I fully admit that I start to get annoyed. Because you and I, and I'm not saying this to grandstand or anything like that, but you and I have, on this show, have been talking about all these guys since like November or December, maybe January if we want it, when we really started to get into
August for me.
But we've been talking about these guys for a while.
Yeah.
And so at this point, it definitely feels like we are all dug in on our guys. These are sort of our opinions on this draft. This is sort of what we would do at this draft if we were in the general manager chair. And this is the point where everybody just gets a little bit riled up because no one's going to get moved at this point. Like all the data is in.
Everybody has their guys.
Yeah, all the combine's over. The film is in. You have your guys. I have my guys. So we'll talk about all that here in a second. But I want to start with Garrett Bradbury, the reported signing by the Patriots of the former Vikings center. And last night, I tweeted some things about this signing. I can't really get all hot and bothered by a $30.8 million guarantee to a center. That's, I think, a big part of it. And that's all reported, by the way. But in general, I can't get that hot and bothered by basically a one-year guarantee on a stopgap center, which is what this is. And with Bradbury, I think it's also philosophically just what I like in centers and what I prefer in centers. I think the number one thing to me with a center is obviously intelligence and smarts and the ability to run the line of scrimmage pre-snap. And you can see that on film with Bradbury, him pointing out, moving the mic points and like doing all of the protections and all that kind of stuff in Minnesota's offense. He's renowned for being a pretty intelligent pre-snap center and being able to handle all those things. The second thing that I always like in centers, I want an athletic center. I want a center that can set the pace of the offensive line, that can make blocks in space, that can reach a block on the line of scrimmage, that can climb to the second level, that can pull, that can get out in front of screens. Those things are what I value in centers. Bradbury, I think, checks a lot of those boxes. He's a very good athlete, still is. It's still there on tape with him. And then it's obviously a bonus if he's a good pass protector. Bradbury is not. Right, it's a bonus. It's a nice bonus if he is a good pass protector. But out of all of the 5 spots on the offensive line in terms of pass protection, I would say it's the least important at center because most of the time nobody's lined up over you. Right, so you either have somebody that's shaded in the A gap in the one tech, or you're in a pass rushing front where the center is completely uncovered. So, as much as I want to say be fair or objective about his struggles in pass protection, particularly last season, I don't think that's the most important thing for a center because of how much help you can get from the guards at that position. So I like the Bradbury signing. I think that this fits the mold of a lot of their other moves, just in terms of we needed an answer today. Like if we were to play a game tomorrow, we needed an NFL caliber center to be able to play that position. And now you go into the draft and you don't have to be thinking about center in the top 100 necessarily because you have a guy like Bradbury under contract. So I don't mind it. I'm not trying to tell you and sell you that he's this high-end, all-pro caliber center. He's absolutely not, but he's an NFL player, and that's good.
Sure. I'd push back on some of that. I think in the context of where this team is at, I wouldn't call pass protection ability a bonus. And I think, yes, centers maybe aren't at the point of attack in pass pro as much as other positions, but the fact that he got exposed as much as he did tells you that he's a guy teams will hunt in that regard. And so he is a weak spot. At the same time, he is, like you say, experienced, smart, veteran. It's a very inexperienced group there. And I think having a veteran in the room is important, regardless of if he's starting or not. I'm not ready to put a Sharpie on the paper yet and call him the starter. I think it should be an open competition going into camp. Him, Cole Strange, Ben Brown. I would like to see them draft somebody. I'm not taking center out. I don't feel changed about where they're at center in terms of the big picture. I still wouldn't hate them taking a center on day 2. The ideal center you just described, I can think of 3 guys right away off the top of my head that fit that bill in this draft. Jared Wilson from Georgia, Jake Majors from Texas, and then Seth McLaughlin's a little different because he's coming off a torn ACL.
Right.
Now, maybe he's the perfect guy because you have Bradbury, or it ends up being Ben Brown as this bridge.
You don't have to draft those guys on day 2. Maybe Wilson.
I think Majors maybe also. Maybe. He's right in that.
I don't know. I think all those guys are, if you're truly a center-only player, it's hard to, you have to be a really good center to get
I would like
early.
them. I would like them to still like them to make a somewhat significant investment at center in this draft, especially because, Bradbury last year was last year was the worst year of his career. Right, he's coming off the worst year of his career high in pressures, career high in accepted penalties called. He's not a long-term answer. He's a contender to be the bridge, as is Ben Brown, as is Cole Strange. I think that's a good, healthy competition. But I don't know that any of those guys are a definitive long-term answer. If you add a guy like a Jared Wilson or like a Jake Majors or even McLaughlin, health aside, that's an option. So I get why they made the signing. I don't think it's a good or bad signing. I'm not really moved by it. Like, I guess it's good in the sense that you're adding to the competition at that spot, which I think is always healthy. 90 players is a lot. I don't know that he's taking up a roster spot, right? You're adding the competition at that group, and you put a veteran in the room for camp, which I think is good. After that, we'll see what happens. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't know that I'm ready to lock him in as the week 1 center. I'm not ready to lock anybody in as the week 1 center. It's going to be an open competition.
It
should be an open competition.
I don't disagree that every position is an open competition in theory.
I'm not talking in the coach speak term of everybody's out here competing. I mean, like a legitimate.
I would find it really hard to believe that he's going to get beat out by Ben Brown and Cole Strange. Like, Ben Brown was kicking around practice squads. Cole Strange is trying to transition to center, if he even still is trying to transition to center.
Cole Strange, I have no idea what's going to happen with Cole Strange. I don't know if Cole Strange is going to be on the team.
I think this signing tells me that
one.
Cole Strange is playing guard for this coaching staff.
Or he's just they don't plan on him being here.
Yeah, but I mean, I assume that he's going to be in camp and he'll have an opportunity.
I think he'll compete at both. He gives them some flexibility because I don't know that he's a fit as a guard in what McDaniels wants to do either.
Yeah,
but was Ben Brown that different of a player from Garrett Bradbury last year?
Different, yeah.
Last year,
yeah, significantly different. Like Garrett Bradbury is still a really good run blocking center. Like, Garrett Bradbury is a really good athlete. Obviously, he's got way more experience than Ben Brown. Like, Ben Brown was the
experience to me is the big difference.
Ben Brown was a nice find, I guess, is what I would. You poached him off a practice squad, and he came in for a month or so and played a respectable center for a time being. But it started
12, 13 games. It was a month or so.
Yeah, and I just said a month or so. Like, it started to give away for him towards the end of what he, when he was playing in there. This is, in my opinion, and this is no disrespect to Ben Brown.
Yeah.
It's more out of respect for Garrett Bradbury. I kind of find it a little, almost disrespectful to Bradbury to say that he's in the same category as Ben Brown.
Well, that's why I said last year, not for his career. I look at a guy that Ben Brown's 25, 26, just played his first full season of NFL football, versus a guy that is going to be 30 years old and is coming off his worst season. Like, it's passing ships, right?
I just think that I think this is who Bradbury has been his entire career. So I guess like worst season. Yeah, I guess maybe by like the metrics in pass protection, it was his worst season. But I don't think that he has ever been a high level pass protector throughout.
He
his
hasn't,
NFL
but
career.
it was worse last year.
At times. I mean, he was not the I'm
not basing. I hate doing that where it's just one game we single out, but just I don't know. I'm not mad they brought him in. Let's see. Maybe last year was a blip.
Yeah.
All I'm saying, I'm more. Let's find out what he is. Then okay, this is our starter. That's more the camp that I'm in.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think Sharpie is strong. Like I think I'd probably say he's penciled in as the starter. And
penciled.
You can always
if they had to play a game today, he would probably start. I'm with you on that.
I just don't envision a scenario where they're going to find a better center for 2025. I'm not talking about long term.
If he takes another step back this year. Does that open the door? This is more about
because I just think he was consistent last year with what his career has been, and that's admitting to deficiencies in his game, right? Like I'm not saying that as in like he's this great player because he's always consistent. I'm saying it as this is who he is. He's a very good athlete at the position. He's a very high level, not very high level. He's a good run blocker.
Yeah.
And he's a not great pass protector. Like that's just who he is.
Well, I think there's other guys that can. We'll see. Like they're not going to get a better center in free agency, and that's why the signing makes sense ultimately to add some floor to that room. I want to see what they do in the draft. I
like McLaughlin. McLaughlin.
Let's
go with McLaughlin.
I'll look that up.
I'm gonna go with I like McLaughlin because I think you're going to get McLaughlin, who's the Ohio State center.
Yeah.
He tore his Achilles in November of last year during practice, tough injury. But you're probably going to get him a round or two later than you would have normally because of the injury. He was tracking to be a top 100 pick, probably third round pick if he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah.
So he gets hurt.
This is a guy just real quick, a guy with a really impressive resume. 4-year player at Alabama, started there, transferred after Saban left last year, went to Ohio State, was like a crucial part of their offensive line. People rave about his leadership, his intelligence. Like he is talent-wise the best center in this draft.
Agreed. I like that idea.
Yeah.
I like that idea because you put him on ice, you get him ready, you get him healthy, and then if it's halfway through the year, if it's 2026.
Well, it might be a little because it was a torn Achilles in late October.
So maybe it's 2026 that he takes over, and Bradbury is truly a bridge, a stopgap 1-year play.
I would be if that's ultimately what they do, assuming that they address the other spots that they need to address. I would be okay with that.
I think it all comes back to kind of bring it big picture because I think there's some other things that we can discuss here too with the offensive line. It all comes back to the fact that, in my eyes, their goal on the offensive line this offseason was to get back to serviceable. Can you just be a average to below average instead of a bottom of the league offensive line? And we both like the Morgan Moses move.
Yep.
So we're in agreement on that. I think that's a step forward to that. I think Onwenu back at right guard, entrenched at right guard.
The right side's fine. I'm not worried at all about that. That's like legitimate, solid. Right side's good.
Yeah, and it's a big if, but if they go out and solve left tackle, and solve is probably a strong word too, like if they have a competent left tackle next year, then I would
call that solving.
I'm confident that Bradbury is going to be a competent center. So that level that we're trying to reach of just functional in that group is possible with Garrett Bradbury.
If Bradbury's your worst offensive lineman, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
If he's your second worst, okay. If he's your third, like now it's
if he's your
starting
second,
to crumble.
I agree, but I would also just say like he plays center, right? So like we're not talking about him being the worst offensive lineman that they have at left tackle. We're talking about him being the worst offensive lineman they have at center.
I don't know. I think you're overrating the position thing a little bit in the sense that smart coaches will find a weakness and find a way to exploit it. They're not going to care about where he is on the field or any of that. They'll go hunt him if they feel like that's what they need to do.
But it's situational. Like you can't. Yeah, they can hunt him on third down. They could hunt him in their pass rushing fronts, and
so
the Jets could
put situations.
The Jets could put Quinnen Williams right over him on 3rd and 8 and let him rush the pass.
Quinnen Williams over him the whole game.
But Not really. Like, you have your base fronts, and like most teams don't play with true nose tackles anymore. Like, so yeah, sure. If you were really that dead set on Garrett Bradbury is a liability and we're just going to target him for 4 straight quarters, then yeah, they obviously could give them some problems with that. But like what Minnesota would do, they would just slide the protection. So you have a half slide or a 3-man slide that Bradbury would be in, and then they would just be man-to-man on the backside of the protection. And for the Patriots, I think just to kind of bring it back and not get bogged down by debating the Garrett Bradbury so much. Like, a lot of this points to me to the fact that Mike Onwenu needs to have a really good bounce back season.
Yes.
I think that
regardless of who's at center. I
think Mike Onwenu, in general, there's just, with Bradbury especially, he's going to have to take on a lot of the tough assignments on the interior. Like, he's going to have to be able to pass protect one-on-one. You're not going to be able to help him a ton in pass protection. And when you have a center like Bradbury, who's 6'2", 6'3", 300 pounds, so he's a little undersized for the offensive line, I think having 2 bulldozers or maulers at guard can really be helpful for a center like that.
Which goes back to the Cole Strange point, too.
Yeah, and I think Minnesota didn't have that. I think Minnesota had bad guard play on top of having weak center play and pass protection, and so it just exacerbated all of these issues. So if you have Onwenu on one side of Garrett Bradbury, and you have a Layden Robinson or a City So or a draft pick on the other side of Garrett Bradbury that's stout and has good play strength and good anchor to him and all those types of things, I could see the interior working out that way. You have, Bradbury helped by 2 massive humans, right, on either side.
And I got to get a massive human at left guard.
Yeah, so City So's a massive human.
City So, okay, that's I was going to say. City So could count.
This kind of feels like a little bit all offseason. I've kind of felt like City So's back in play here.
Yeah.
Back to that Bill O'Brien adjacent scheme that he was okay in as a rookie. Back to maybe some more downhill stuff, more gap stuff. Now, Bradbury's a zone blocking center. Has been all the way back to his college career. So could this signal some sort of scheme change or maybe a morphing or melding between what Vrabel did in Tennessee and what Josh McDaniels has done historically to bring in some more zone flavor to this offense? I think it's possible. I wouldn't rule it out. I also wouldn't overreact to one signing, especially if at a level like Bradbury.
I also think this is more about getting that veteran and an experienced player than the scheme thing.
His best trait, though, is absolutely his range and his ability to block on the move. Laterally, move laterally, and reach blocks and climb and all that kind of stuff. That's what he's good at. That typically is more of a zone blocking thing. Like if you're expecting Garrett Bradbury to get on a double team and move the line of scrimmage, like this is not the center for you. This is not your guy. But if you're asking the center to be more athletic and make more plays in space, then he's definitely somebody that can do that at a pretty good level. So will there be a scheme change? Maybe. I doubt it. I still am sticking to my guns that Josh McDaniels is going to get to do what Josh McDaniels wants to do and has always done, which is, run downhill and 2 back and power and lead and all that good stuff. But we'll see. The other thought that I had with this Bradbury signing was what I just mentioned with the guards. This seems to me like the Patriots are going to have an open competition for left guard out of those 3 recent draft picks: Cole Strange, Layden Robinson, and City So.
I could see him adding somebody too in the draft.
Yeah, I could see somebody, another dart thrown in there in the middle rounds. I did some guard research the other day on Monday. Had fun with it. Like, those guards in this class are good. There's some good players in this guard class, especially when you factor in the tackles that are going to move inside. The college tackles. But there's some really good guards that can be had in the middle round. Some guys that played tackle in college that can be tackles in a pinch. Arizona kid Jonas Sevilla. Obviously Wyatt Milam is probably going to move inside, and Gray Zabel and Donovan Jackson, but that's sort of the top of the class. You go into those middle rounds, there's some guys like that too. Jalen Rivers from Miami played a little to left tackle, a little bit of left guard. So he can be, in a pinch, you can flex him outside and move him to tackle. I could definitely see a lot of those types of guys, 3rd or 4th round guard, I think is absolutely on the table. Maybe one of those guys can even play a little bit of center for you so that, it can kind of cross-train him and see where he fits best once he gets in here. But those three guys, I think Strange, Sal, and Robinson, are probably going to be given a pretty good chance to start at left guard.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an open competition. You're gonna have a competition in camp at least one spot, if not two. But
yeah,
left guard makes the most sense just because of how much they've invested there, and maybe they keep investing. Maybe the staff wants their own guy. Shouldn't be in the top 100, but a guy like Carson Vincent or Clay Webb, who also has some center guard flexibility,
yeah,
would make sense.
Yeah, and I would also just say, from my perspective, you should be able to get a left guard out of those three guys.
Yes.
Like if you have the right coaching and you have the right coaching. Like if Doug Marrone is doing his job, and if Josh McDaniels is doing his job, those three guys are talented enough that they should be able to find a starting guard out of those
unless stylistically the guy they want, they don't fit what they want, right?
Yeah,
we
but
just
I
kind of
feel-
talked about that. City
yeah,
So should,
like
Layden
Cole
Robinson
Strange,
maybe.
Yeah, Layden Robinson's a powerful player. He's not as big as City So,
Right.
But he's a guy that I would say wins with power. You know, like that is sort of his game, is power oriented. But I'm with you. I think that they're type wise, like Cole Strange is probably not their type.
I think he's going to be more in the mix at center than guard.
Yeah, I genuinely feel that way. That if they have the right coaching, if they're in the right scheme, that you invested 3 top 120 picks, just to be precise, in 3 different guards. Like Robinson and So are high 4th round picks. Cole Strange was obviously a 1st round pick. If you can't get one starting guard out of those 3 guys, I think that's not good. you should be able to pull that out. So that brings us to left tackle in this offensive line reset, which I'm also going to write about, so you can hear this exact take again on Patriots.com tomorrow if you want. But left tackle, obvious glaring hole on that side of the ball. Like you can talk yourself into those 3 guards emerging with one starter at left guard.
Yeah,
I can't really talk myself into the left tackle being on the roster currently.
Who even is, like, if there were to be a competition, and who?
I guess Caden Wallace trying to play the left side again.
Really work. Like, it's not even a competition there, right? Not that there's any practices right now, but you can't even say it's a competition there right now because there's nobody to compete.
Yeah. That being said, I don't fault them entirely for passing on Dan Moore Jr. at $20 million a year. I think that one I can understand. He was not good last year either. Gave up the most sacks in the league at that position. I get that one, but that doesn't mean that's not a cop out. Like they still need to make a big investment at left tackle.
Cam Robinson's still out there.
So Cam Robinson's still out there. Something tells me that Cam Robinson still being out there is not a good sign for Cam Robinson. I don't know if it's, there's some rumors out there. None of it's confirmed, so I don't want to just throw things out there. But with Cam Robinson, but he's still a free agent as a guy that was considered one of the top free agents at that position, which is a very important position.
Right.
So the fact that he's still floating out there means his market has not materialized the way that he expected, I would say. The other one that I would just mention at left tackle in free agency that's still out there is probably ring chasing right now. But Tyron Smith is still out there. And Tyron Smith at 33 years old played a respectable left tackle for the Jets last year. He was solid. He wasn't great. It was kind of like Morgan Moses. Like those 2 guys were decent, right, at their spots. Again, it's another stopgap. It's another Band-Aid on the issue. But I wouldn't hate Tyron Smith with a highly drafted left tackle. Maybe you don't have to go left tackle at 4. Maybe you go trade back up into the 1st round or take one at 38 or whatever the case may be. But Cam Robinson and Tyron Smith are those 2 options to me and to everybody. I feel like if you want to do that route, if you don't want to be pigeonholed into tackle at 4 and you want to take a tackle at 38 or at the late 1st round in the trade up, then those are your 2 options to kind of bridge the gap.
Is Tyron Smith realistically coming here, though?
No. I think the only way that Tyron Smith's coming here is if he has very little market and the Patriots are willing to overpay.
He's also a guy I could see waiting into the summer to sign just so he doesn't have to go through spring practices. Patriots kind of need a guy with him, working with Drake May, working with this coaching staff from the beginning. Not that Tyron Smith needs the work, but I don't know that. Look, he's better than nothing, but I don't know that he makes a ton of sense. I don't know how realistic it is. I don't know that he makes the most sense.
So then the draft talk or the draft conversation at tackle is it kind of comes down to three things for me, and maybe you have a fourth thing, but I don't want to take the chance on Will Campbell. Right, like bank on the film with Will Campbell that he's
it has to be in the conversation. If we're just talking about what the team might do, and we're trying to have a realistic conversation about the Patriots draft strategy,
right?
Will Campbell at 4 or 6 if you trade down, whatever. You're not getting him past 6. As a left tackle, has to be in the conversation. We can't ignore it. It's not something you can ignore.
So bank on the fact that Will Campbell can make it work with the arms.
Yeah.
Flip Armand Membu to left tackle.
Yeah.
Or target the next wave, Josh Simmons, Josh Connerly, Ariante Ursary, either at 38, hope one of those guys falls a little bit, or go up and get him in the back half of the first round. Out of those three options, where do you stand on March 19th?
What do I think they're going to do? I think it's going to be Campbell.
Okay. Where does Alex Barth stand?
I would probably get aggressive and try to move up into the 20s.
Agreed.
And Ursary, who is the third guy's Banks, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, so Banks is interesting.
Who was the third guy in your second tier?
Connerly, Simmons, Ursary.
Oh, Simmons. I'm out on Simmons. I've said that. I'm out on Simmons. I'd rather have Ursary than Connerly, but, I would take either. I just think that's the most prudent course of action. You got to be able to move up. And I don't think you're getting either of those guys at 38 because we saw this last year. There is such a shortage at the tackle position. Teams are desperate. Teams are going to be aggressive to try to fill that hole. Guys are going to go significantly earlier. Once Kelvin Banks goes, right, whether it be at 8, at 10, at 12, that's essentially a starting gun. The race is on. And because after the three guys you named, and to me, Simmons is a good player, but he's not an option for the Patriots, like, there's a significant drop-off to the next group. So you have 3 shots, and in the Patriots' case and some other teams' cases, 2 shots to get your guy starting at, if I'm being realistic, Banks probably isn't going any lower than 15, 16.
That's why I left him off.
So, and you were right to do that.
Yeah.
So, the other option would be, do you trade down to like 10, try to get a haul and take Banks there?
Right.
That would be a fourth option. But to me, you're racing up from 38 to try to get one of those guys, and it's probably going to be expensive, and you're really going to have to push to do it. They knew last year they needed to do it, and they didn't.
Yeah.
They tried last year for both a tackle and a receiver to do this, and they failed in doing so. I said this on a show last night, and I think I'm going to start giving this take stronger and stronger as we go on, pending any changes to the roster. Tell me if you agree, Evan. They should not be picking at 38. I don't think that if they pick at 38, they didn't have the best possible draft. You have 2/3. You have the flexibility to move up. Option number 1 for me at tackle is getting up to where you need to get up to, which is probably the high mid-20s. And if you package, even if you want to do the lower third, the Judon third, 38 and 77 historically gets you to like 23, 24.
Yeah.
And you might not get your choice, but you should be able to get one of Ursary and Connerly there. Maybe you do get your choice. That's the move to me. After that, I take the shot on Will Campbell. I know people think I overreact to the right side to left side thing, but yes, if you want to pull out a handful of examples where it's worked, you can do that. The vast majority of the time, it hasn't worked. You can say the same thing about Will Campbell's arm length, too, because I know people will come back at me at that. If I were to rank these, it's 1, 2, 3. And for people listening, my arms like all the way up on 1 and 2, 3 were 2 very little motions. So, yes, you're either way, you're asking for an outlier, whether it's Campbell or whether it's moving Membu. And by the way, Membu's not exactly the prototype left tackle either. He has the arm length, but he's shorter.
Yeah.
And he's not as wide as you usually look for at that position. 332 pounds, but he's built like a guard. He's built kind of like Kelvin Banks. So either way, 2 or 3, you're looking for an outlier. To me, trust the coaching staff to either coach up Ursary or coach up Connerly, and just looking at their preferences and their trends and the way they've gone. If I had to guess, Ursary's probably higher than Connerly on their board.
Yeah, so I put out a mock draft yesterday or the day before, and I took Campbell at 4 overall. And
again, if we're playing the prediction game, that's what I think.
Right, and everybody came at me and was like, you said you were out on Campbell, you're flip-flopping. And my take on Campbell has not flip-flopped one bit. I feel the same way that I did. I personally would not take Will Campbell at 4 because of the risk with the arm length. I genuinely feel like with Will Campbell, you have to be careful there. With 4 overall, you want to pick that you feel really good about. With that being said, in a draft like this, it's easier said than done to just do that. Because if Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are not there, then now we are talking about a group of players that all have question marks, right? They all have certain things about them that we don't love. I saw Daniel Jeremiah tweeted this out yesterday. If the Patriots or any team were to draft Ted McMillan inside the top 15, he would be the first 4 or 5 plus receiver to go that high since Mike Evans. It's over 10 years.
Yeah.
So Mike Evans was drafted in 2014. So you're basically banking on the fact that he's going to be Mike Evans. Right, like he's going to be that. He's an outlier.
Yeah.
Drafting a 4.55 receiver at 4 overall is an outlier.
Right.
Whether you are in love with the 40 or not, that makes him an outlier.
Yeah.
Mason Graham is small. He's 295 pounds. That makes him an outlier.
Well, not just that. The last defensive tackle to go in the top 5 was Quinnen Williams in 2009. The last one before that was Marcel Darius in 2011.
Right.
So that's another one where
outlier.
And how both good players. How much do those guys contribute to their teams winning?
Right. So Ted McMillan has the speed concerns that would make him an outlier. Will Campbell has arm length concerns that would make him an outlier. Mason Graham, it's a combination, I would say, of size and position.
Yep.
Ashton Genty's a running back. Tyler Warren's a tight end.
Yeah, who's the last tight end that went top 5?
Those
I don't even think it's Pitts, right? Didn't Pitts go 6?
Those positions are typically not viewed as great positional value at the top of the draft. So what I'm getting at is that it's easy to just sit here and say I'm out on Will Campbell, which maybe I was a little bit strong with after the combine.
Pitts went 4th.
More than I should have been. But it's easy to say that when then you start to look at and survey the landscape.
Right, so who are you in on?
Well, I'm just getting...
No, that's my point. Like, if you're out on Will Campbell, okay, well, who are you in on?
Right, so if it were me and I was picking, I would personally... I like the scenario of trading back up into the back end of the first round. Now, I just looked it up last season. I think this is kind of relevant. Amarius Mims started another run of O-line at 18.
Yeah.
Right, he got drafted at 18 by the Bengals. Tyler Guyton went in the 20s to Dallas. So I would say that Connerly and Ursery potentially, and then maybe Simmons if teams feel good about his medicals. The 20s to early 30s is probably where those 3 guys are going in that sort of range. So the Patriots are going to have to be aggressive. They're going to have to trade back up, potentially all the way back up into the first round. You like Ursery. I personally like Connerly a little bit more. I just think he's a higher level pass protector, and that's what I would want at that spot. Ursery is a mauler. I like
Connerly better. I think Ursery is there.
I would say he would be their type at right tackle. I think at left tackle, they have typically had better athletes and guys that pass protect at a little bit of a higher level. Ursery worries me just, I think, in terms of foot speed and just nimbleness at that position. He has some of those concerns, a little bit like Trent Brown, where like he's just a bigger dude, right? So it's a lot of weight to move. When he has to move back and forth and side to side and change directions and get out to speed rushers and get underneath them and leverage blocks and get his hands on people that are twitched up rushers like that, he's always going to just be kind of a bigger guy. And I feel like he moves a little bit like that. Connerly is the total opposite. Connerly doesn't have his play strength, but is a much more nimble pass protector and much lighter on his feet. So if I had to rank the options, I would personally try to target one of those guys at the back end of the first round, early second. That would be number 1 for me.
By the way, real quick, last tight end to go top 5 before Kyle Pitts?
Yeah.
1972, Riley Odoms to the Broncos.
Jeez.
A couple guys went 6 overall, but that's a significant outlier. It was Vernon Davis and somebody else went 6 overall. Kellen Winslow.
Then I'm going Will Campbell. And I want to finish this Will Campbell take here in a second. And then I would go Membu. Like, that would be my order. With Will Campbell, the thing that I mocked him to the Patriots in my last mock draft, like I said, what I keep coming back to with Will Campbell is that I cannot fathom that Mike Vrabel is going to get into a room with Will Campbell and sit down and talk to this guy and have him here and host him here on a 30 visit and talk to Will Campbell and not fall in love. He is a Mike Vrabel football player.
Go look up any quote of him talking at any point. That is leadership, accountability, all the intangibles.
High football character.
He's going to be captain year 2.
Right. And with this regime, culture is a big word. It seems like that a lot of their moves so far in free agency has been about establishing a culture here in New England. And I just can't imagine that the culture guy, an offensive lineman that has that kind of intangible qualities like Will Campbell, I just can't imagine that Vrabel is going to look at that and say his arms are a little too short, so I'm out.
Right.
I just can't see that. So would it be the smartest pick in the world? Would it be a risk? Yeah, it would be a risk. But just trying to project what they might do now, I just think Will Campbell is definitely on their radar.
I'm with you. What it's going to come down to, if Travis Hunter's off the board, I think it's clearly, prediction-wise, I think it's clearly Campbell.
Yeah.
The only thing is, would they pass on Travis Hunter? Because Vrabel also talked about how hard it is to get a wide receiver and the importance of drafting at that position. And, there's an argument to be had there based on what we've seen of their philosophies. Not using my own philosophies, using their philosophies. There's a real debate between Travis Hunter, assuming they view him as a wide receiver, which we both think they do, especially after signing Carlton Davis, and Will Campbell. But if Hunter's not there, how's that not the guy?
Yeah.
How is that not their guy? He's made in a lab to play for Mike Vrabel.
100%.
We've known that since September.
Yeah, 100%. I can't imagine that they would pass on Travis Hunter. Like, we've had some opportunities to talk to Elliot Wolf, and I know there's some reporting. I think Mass Live's has reporting on Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
More source type of stuff. And every time that I've had the opportunity, when I say every time, the one time at the table that we at the combine, I mean, the guy we had 2 different scouting reports about this guy. Like, we wrote up one receiver, one corner. I understand to an extent that it's probably just a fascinating player from a lifetime of scouting, that you get to scout a guy that plays both ways at such a high level. That's probably just fascinating for a true scout like Elliot Wolf. But at the same time, I can't imagine that they are saying these things about Travis Hunter publicly and privately, and then they're just going to pass on Travis Hunter if he's there at 4. I don't think that's necessarily in play. But I'm with you. I think it's Campbell if it's not. The other sort of tie-in, then we'll get to all these calls and emails. Can we call it like 40-gate? Because like Ted McMillan's 40. I have heard every range from 4.48 to 4.6.
Well, look,
for his 40-yard dash at his private workout. It wasn't even a pro day. He's not participating in the Big 12 pro day. He just did a private workout for teams.
The majority of the reports, there's only one report that's under 4.5. The majority of the reports are in the. I went back and I looked at everything and I averaged it out. The majority of the reports are in the mid 4.5s, like 4.53 to 4.55 is seemingly the number, which is also pretty much what it looks like on tape. 4.6 would be slow, even for him. Like, that would be pretty eye opening. If he ran a 4.6 at a private workout, he would have never let that number get out there. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So. I'm open. I'm willing to call it like a 4.53, 4.55, somewhere in there.
So he looks to me like a low 4.5s guy.
Yeah.
Like 4.53 feels right.
That feels
4.55 on the high end of the range, maybe, if he's a little bit slower than the eye
I
test
also wonder
says.
if he ran 2, like, because most people run 2. You run 2 at the combine, and if people haven't been differentiating, so we're hearing.
I think that there was some reporting that he only ran once. So he must have thought it was
run twice.
He must have thought it was a decent enough time to only run once. So the number that I was looking for him to put up to really be like, okay, I need to reevaluate this. Michael Pittman Jr. ran a 4.52.
Yeah.
So we talk about like ceiling, floor, middle, mean, whatever you want to call it, in terms of prospects. I think with Tet, the floor comp to me is Michael Pittman Jr. with the Colts. Who is
pretty good floor.
It's a good floor, but he's a 90 catch, 1,000-yard guy, right? It's gonna be like 11 yards per catch, right? That's what he's gonna do. He's in a big frame, but he's really a possession receiver. He's a first and second level guy, and he gets open at the top of the route, and that's about it, right? It slants, in cuts, stop routes on the outside, back shoulders, and the occasional throw it up and let him go get it down the field. That's Michael Pittman Jr. The middle is Drake London. And I think Drake London brings what I see with Ted on film a little bit is that burst after the catch, right? He's got a little bit more explosiveness with the ball.
That's why, did you see that? Did anybody give a 10-yard split?
No.
I was really curious because I bet his 10-yard split was pretty good.
Yeah.
I was curious to see what his 10-yard split was because of that burst.
Yeah, he has an ability, and I know some of the analytics, like some of the player tracking, will back this up. Like when he catches the ball, he finds another gear.
He's the most underrated part of his game is how good he is after the catch.
Yeah, he's really good at it, and he's really really great. Stop on a dime, change of direction to just kind of slip out of a tackle real quick and turn up the field. He has that really good ability. He reverses field pretty well, and he'll run a route, he'll get open on an in cut, and the defender will kind of come crashing in to try to break up the pass, and he can stop on a dime and come right back up the field and create after the catch. He's really good at that. But what I'm getting at with Ted is that you just need to know what you're drafting. Right, and then the high floor, I guess I didn't mention, is obviously be like somebody like T. Higgins, right?
T. Higgins,
Who
also he ran a 4.53, I think, right?
I don't know if he ran at the combine. I think that's like an unofficial pro day number. But needless to say, the point being, you have to understand what you're getting with Ted McMillan. You're not getting a field stretcher. You're not getting a vertical threat. I don't think that he really, especially playing on the outside, I don't think that he threatens vertically from the outside. He doesn't run by people, especially on the outside against press coverage. But you're getting a good first and second level receiver, and I do think that he will stretch the field a little bit for you in the slot. If you put him in the big slot type of role and have him run seams and things like that, I think that's where he can be effective down the field. Because then you get him on matchups with linebackers and safeties and stuff like that, and he can win those foot races. So if you understand the type of player that you're getting and you're creative enough to understand the type of player that you're getting, then Ted McMillan has a nice floor projection to me. Like, I don't see a path where he's a total bust.
Right.
That's why I use Pittman. Who
By the way, I appreciate everybody who sent in. We did that exercise last week. What's the comp if he busted? I got a bunch of good replies to that on Twitter.
I don't see him being like this monumental bust of a receiver because I think he's got great body control and route running and hands, which is a really good baseline and level of trait.
Yak ability.
Right. So Ted McMillan, my opinion on him hasn't changed.
Yeah.
I still feel the same way. I still think it's a little rich at 4. I probably would only entertain it at 4.
Who isn't, though?
The only reason why I'd entertain it at 4 is because he's a receiver. Yeah. And Mike Vrabel gave that quote at the Combine that it's hard to find receivers of that caliber, and most of the time you have to draft those guys. So is there a scenario where they just say, we need playmaking on offense? He's not perfect, but he's a playmaker.
Yeah.
We're drafting Ted.
And to anybody say, well, trade down and do it. Maybe the trade's not there. Right. Or you can't trade, So I'm going to ask you 2 questions about this.
Yep.
Well, 1 question and then 1 series of questions. Is Ted McMillan slow?
Yes.
I disagree. I just don't think he's fast.
What,
he has functional speed.
That's the most semantics argument
He has
ever.
Functional speed. No, it's not. No, it's not.
The same thing.
He's not slow for the. Do you remember the guy it was David Bell, right, from Purdue?
He was slow.
A couple years ago, who everybody was all hot and bothered by. He's like a top 100 pick, and then he ran like a 4.7.
Yeah.
That guy's slow. Ted McMillan has functional speed. He's not fast, but he's not slow. He has functional speed. Here's the other part.
Yeah.
Who's your wide receiver 2 right now? Is it Golden? Or is it
I'm still on Luther Burden.
It's Luther Burden?
I still like Luther Burden. I know the league doesn't, but
which gap is bigger? And this is Travis Hunter being his own thing, right?
Yep.
Which gap, or actually, let's do it 3 ways. Travis Hunter is a receiver to Ted versus Ted to Burden. Which gap is bigger?
Yeah, it's a good conversation. And I also would say add the tackles in there too, right? Like, what's a bigger gap? Like Will Campbell and Armand Membu to Josh
Well,
Connerly.
no, just a receiver. Just a receiver.
I would say that there's probably a bigger gap between Ted and Luther Burden.
Then,
yeah.
Okay, so let's go. Let's say Hunter's off the board, right? Ted to Burden or Burden to Golden or Ibuka?
I have Burden, Ibuka, and Golden all in the same tier.
Okay.
So I view those guys as pretty equal players. I think all 3 of those guys, and I think Luther Burden's getting hurt by last season and some of the antics last season for teams. I'm sure that there's questions about that. But to me, those guys all belong in the 20s of a draft. Like they're right where Zay Flowers and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Jordan Addison and Quentin Johnson were a few years
I guess
ago.
this is kind of what I was leading to. Let's say So Hunter, you're uncomfortable at 4, but you acknowledge maybe you need a receiver. The trades.
I'm definitely taking Hunter.
McMillan. Sorry,
Yeah,
McMillan.
Hunter.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd take Hunter at 4. McMillan.
Yeah.
Maybe the trade's not there to get down to like 6 or 7 where you want him. You can trade down to like 15, and let's say you get future first, right? And get, or maybe you don't, because obviously if you can get the future first, you're taking the future first. You trade down to like 15, somewhere in the teens, knowing you want to take a receiver, and you take Burden.
Yeah.
Would you rather, and you're maybe overdrafting Burden a little bit, but now you've gotten this haul. Would you rather do that?
Yeah, I'd rather do that.
Okay.
Maybe it wouldn't be Burden just because they feel they don't.
Or Golden or whoever.
Right, like Burden.
Like, to me, Golden is the second best wide receiver.
Yeah, he's up
especially
there.
like if we're talking specifically for the Patriots.
Yeah.
And if Josh McDaniels going to run the offense we think he's going to run, to me, Matthew Golden's wide receiver 2, and the gap between McMillan and Golden is not as big in that regard as maybe some people would make it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that agree with you in the league on that. Like, I think there's going to be teams that have Matthew Golden as the number 1 receiver in this class, especially teams that prioritize speed, obviously, over some of the other things. With Matthew Golden, or with Luther Burden, actually, I just feel like with Burden, Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah both had him out of the first round in their mocks earlier this week. That's not based off of tape. That's based off of intel they're getting inside the league, that teams are not in love with the football character, right? In terms of some of the antics
I don't think
season.
I don't think it's a character thing with Golden. I think he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Well, Golden too, right? They had Golden outside the first round?
No, Golden's going the first.
I thought you said Golden and
No,
Burden.
no.
Okay.
I think with Luther Burden,
Okay, then yes, it's
it's not
character
talent.
thing.
It's
Yeah.
not talent.
Which is crazy because if you talk to people who are around him at Missouri,
Yeah.
you hear about what a great kid he is and how driven he is and all of that and what he's meant to the community. So it's literally just getting frustrated in that broken down offense last year.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question, because now that these mocks have come out and he's out of the first round,
Yeah.
are you taking Luther Burden at 38?
Absolutely.
I would.
I mean, unless they take Ted at 4. I'm not doubling
yeah,
up.
right,
but
right.
yes, if they go tackle in the first round and Luther Burden's there at 38,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Your comp has been Bigger Zay Flowers.
Yeah, Bigger Zay Flowers.
I think there's some Debo there.
Yep.
Like, you plug that guy into this offense, you're going to have a really good time.
I wonder, some of the reporting out there, I think Tom Curran had it about DK Metcalf, and they were worried about the diva wide receiver calling for the ball all the time and begging for the ball all the time. Burden last year, you could take some of the antics that he had and spin it that way, that he was mad he wasn't getting targets.
I think that's what it was.
Right. So
Brady Cook just forgot
maybe
how to play football.
if they felt that way about DK, then maybe it takes a guy like Burden off their board. But I kind of feel the opposite way, because I trust Vrabel with the culture stuff. Like, I trust him to get a young player like Luther Burden to stay on the tracks.
That's the difference there, young player. It's one
Yeah.
thing to talk about a 27-year-old, $30 million a year guy versus a rookie, especially a guy who just fallen in the draft.
I would just hope that Vrabel would look at it that way and say, you know what, like, I'll text this kid every single morning during the season to get his butt in the facility and make sure that he's on, on his P's and Q's, and make sure that we have him ready to play and all those. I would just, if I was Vrabel, I would just trust myself to like raise a guy like that.
He's also, again, like, I think it literally came down to the production of the offense and his production.
And
I don't
Brady
think it's
Cook.
any deeper than that.
Yeah.
Drake May's a much better quarterback than Brady Cook. And if you're drafting Luther Burden in the top 40 on this football team, he should be a 110, 120 target guy.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about him getting upset over lack of targets, simply for the reason that if he has a lack of targets, you screwed up.
Yeah.
That's on the team.
Yeah.
That guy, like, I've talked about certain receivers maybe not being volume guys in this offense. Luther Burden's a 120 target player if he's healthy in New England. I'm not worried about him getting lack of targets because I'm drafting him with the idea that I'm going to feed him the football constantly.
Yeah. So we're both still no on Ted at 4.
I'm not like I'm a soft no.
It's so hard in this
I
draft.
kind of feel about
It's so hard
I
in this
feel about
draft.
Ted McMillan the same way I felt about Mason Graham before they added Milton Williams, which was, I don't think he'd be a bad pick, but he's definitely not the best pick they can make.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think in this draft it's so hard because all these guys.
It's
there's
tough to be fully out on anybody in this draft.
Yeah, there's positives and negatives about everybody, and it's not a perfect draft. Or not that any draft's perfect, but this one's really not a perfect draft. So it's tough to be a hard no on anybody.
I mean, if
they took him, I could understand it, but I think that it's a risk.
But they're all like this is why I won't say I'm a no, because I think when you say you're out on a player, you have to give an alternative, right? So let's say we throw that qualifier again, Hunter and Carter off the board, right? Yeah. Okay, so you're out on Ted McMillan. You're out on Will Campbell. Like, who are you in on? You have to have somebody you're willing to pick.
Yeah, have to pick somebody, as you like to.
Right. So who? If you're a no on Ted McMillan, who?
I don't know.
No, you can't say you don't.
Oh, who would I pick?
Yeah.
I would take Will Campbell. But
you said you wouldn't.
But in this scenario, I would take Will Campbell.
Okay, I thought you said you wouldn't take him at 4.
I said I would take him in that scenario.
Not projecting what they are, not projecting them. You're on the clock.
Oh man,
Hunter and for this team, Hunter and Carter are gone, and the trade isn't there. Nobody wants to move up. You just gonna let the clock run out like the Minnesota Vikings and let somebody make the decision for you?
I might.
Well, that's terrible.
It's a terrible spot to be in.
I'm taking Campbell in that scenario. I don't feel great about it, but I'm probably taking Campbell in that scenario.
I guess I'm probably taking Campbell.
Like, you can't just be out on everybody is my point.
Yeah, no, you make a valid point.
I would take a long, hard look at Ted McMillan. I would take a long, hard look at Tyler Warren. I would still take a long, hard look at Armand Membu, honestly. I really would. But I think as that clock's winding, and I'm taking every second to try to make calls. And realistically, you'll probably get a trade. But I think I'd end up taking Will Campbell if I was in that situation. I wouldn't feel good about it. And maybe I don't know that there is a pick you're going to feel good about. But again, you're just going to let the clock run out? All right, you know what, Jaguars, you pick. You make the decision for us, and then we'll just take who's left. But you still might not like anybody. You're going to let the Raiders decide? At what point, honestly, I'd feel pretty good about letting the Jets decide. No, I'd pick
10.
at 8. I'd pick at 8 because whoever the Jets take at 7 is probably wrong. So whoever they leave is probably right.
It's a tough spot to be in.
It's not easy. It's not an easy draft. This is a hard draft. And that clip is going to get turned into me saying I think the Patriots should undoubtedly take Will Campbell. But no, it's just an exercise.
I think the only thing I come back to with Will Campbell, and then we can stop belaboring this point, the worst case scenario is that he's a really good guard.
Yeah.
That's the worst case scenario. Whereas I think the worst case scenario with a guy like Tet is that he can't get open. Right? And that's really not good. Right? So like that to me I think is a big difference with those two players. I don't know.
Somebody in the chat, this is a good one.
Tough spot to be in.
I'm absolutely taking Campbell in that scenario. Jihad Campbell.
Oh my God, no.
I think Jalen Walker is a better linebacker than Jihad Campbell is, but that's another guy I would take a long, hard look at. I do like Jihad Campbell. I just think Jalen Walker's a little better.
Yeah, like if you really don't like those options, then you're going and you're taking a defensive player with some tools, right? Whether it's Jalen Walker, it's Mykel Williams, who, by the way, Mykel Williams, we haven't heard anything about his pro day. There's like a 40 time that got floated out there that wasn't so great, and we haven't heard any other testing numbers from his pro day, which makes me worried. That tells me that they weren't good.
They used to televise the Georgia pro day.
If they were good, if Mykel Williams had this great pro day, this like Trayvon Walker-esque pro day, we would all know about it, right? Like those numbers would be everywhere. He also didn't participate in the combine. I don't remember if there was an injury with him, but like I don't know if Mykel Williams was this like Adonis athlete that everybody thought. Shamar Stewart is like another one of those guys, right? It blew up the combine. It's a tough spot to be in. All right.
Better hope somebody wants that pick.
I know. We're coming up on another weekend without football, so why not spend the offseason getting organized with Bob's Discount Furniture? Shop Bob's and revamp every room with smart storage solutions like the Beaumont bedroom set featuring built-in drawers for all your Patriots gear, or the customizable modular Bob's sectional, which now includes hidden storage consoles for all of blankets, remotes, and that football you practice throwing when no one is looking. So stock up on winning storage styles with Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. And Patriots Catch-22 is sponsored by the Massachusetts 250 campaign, commemorating a history of possibility. Plan your revolutionary weekend at Massachusetts250.org. All right, I know you guys have been waiting. Let's get to these phones. Patty is in Agawam. What's up, Patty?
What's up, Patty?
What is up, Jen?
Hey.
How we doing?
Doing all right today. I had a point that I wanted to say, and then I'm going to end with a couple questions. So the point I wanted to make was regarding the offensive tackles, Alex, I know you say you'd prefer Ursary over Connolly Jr. I'm a sicko, so I do like a lot of like podcast listening, reading on all these kids coming out of college, and I have for like 30 plus years, right? So to me, just from what I've gleaned, it looks like Ursary's more of a plug-and-play guy. I mean, he could start on the left side day one. Connerly, though, is a little bit younger. I think he's only 21, and he was a former running back and a former basketball player, and a lot of the stuff that I'm reading, that I'm listening to, says that he hasn't even hit his floor, his potential floor yet as a target, as an offensive tackle. So just going by what you guys said, like if you were to get someone like Tyron Smith to be like a stopgap player, a lot of these guys, like the PFF guys, Steve Bell, I know he's not with them anymore, but Steve, the old guy from PFF, they're saying that he could be possibly the best franchise tackle out of the whole class, and that's what I'm looking for. And that's just my 2 cents on that. So my 2 quick questions I have for you guys, and these are kind of thinkers. I can't even come up with them. Just in your guys' opinion, the first one, who's the safer pick out of Tet McMillan and Will Campbell?
I think Will Campbell.
It's Will Campbell because at the very least you're getting a guard.
Yeah, right. Yep.
And I think the second question I had is, I know I just kind of prefaced this with talking about Josh Connolly, but just in that same vein, I think if Travis Hunter is there at 4, Tet might be more of just a day one starter plug-and-play guy. You kind of see that between him and Hunter, because a lot of the stuff that I hear and read on Hunter is that he's still raw. Like, he's still learning the position. I would take Hunter at 4 and just kind of let him learn on the fly. But I'd like to get your guys' thoughts on that, and I'll take it off the air. You guys are the best. I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks. Patty. Yeah, I can understand, some of those people that think Hunter's kind of still developing as a receiver, but I'm not taking him over or taking Ted.
Yeah, no, McMillan's obviously more developed at the position. He's been playing it his whole life.
Yeah.
Hunter has never focused full-time on receiver, but the idea is once you let him do that with his natural skills, he's going to truly progress at a rapid and exponential rate. So I'm betting on the ceiling there. Like, McMillan probably has a slightly higher floor at wide receiver than Hunter, slightly higher floor, but I think the ceiling for Hunter is much, much higher.
Yeah, I think Hunter's actually got some real natural instincts for receiver, which I really was.
Well, yeah, it comes from playing corner.
Pretty surprised by in a way. Maybe there's some technical stuff with his release in the top of the route and stuff like that he will need to develop with more time spent on receiver, but he's got a really good feel for running routes against zone coverage, like finding soft spots and pockets in zones. He has a really good feel working off script with Shedeur Sanders and making himself available for the quarterback, and has a great motor, just constantly trying to get open and constantly working himself open, which would translate nicely to Drake May. And then he's got great ball skills.
Yeah.
So those things are just natural abilities that when you watch him at receiver that he just has innately already. So we can maybe get bogged down by the fact that his footwork at the top of the route could be a little bit more efficient, or his hand fighting against man-to-man and press could be a little bit better. But those things are going to come when he plays a position more often. The things that he's innately good at or naturally good at, that's his floor. That's where I feel safe with him as a pick. So no, I wouldn't really panic about that. But I'm with Josh Connerly. I like the idea. Now, if you're telling me that you feel like they need to sign Cam Robinson as a 1-year bridge or even a half-year bridge just to coach up Connerly before you throw him in there at left tackle, then I don't hate that plan. But I'm with Patty. I'm taking the upside. I'm going for the guy that I think can be a really high-level left tackle.
Give me the big mauler.
All right. Marcus is in South Carolina. We get a lot of calls from North Carolina, Marcus, but you're in South Carolina.
Yes. Thank y'all for having me. I really enjoy watching y'all, and y'all are the best analysts out. Hard to cover this team, and y'all have a non-bitter perspective, so I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
But I wanted to ask about Trey Harris. You know, Jackson Dart's getting a lot of love right now, and I don't know. I don't know if people didn't watch Ole Miss. Every time Trey Harris played, Jackson Dart looked really good. I mean, I'm a Florida fan, and the one catch he had was a touchdown for 43 yards. And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts about DJ Lagway once he gets close to entering the draft. But I just don't get why he's not. I get he's older and he's had some injuries, but about a player who can come in and produce right away. I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on Trey Harris and how y'all feel about him as a Patriot.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Marcus. He was a recency bias for me guy at one point when I was making my way
I was
through
surprised.
the receivers.
It's not your kind of player.
I comped into Brandon LaFell. Crafty, good route runner for his size, can win at the catch point, just not going to run by you, not particularly fast. I think that's where some people have reservations with him, is that he just doesn't have a whole lot of burst or speed down the field or after the catch. So
Day 2 Ted McMillan.
Yeah, he's kind of just going to catch the ball at 12, 13 yards and go down. Like, that's kind of, I think, what people are a little concerned about with Trey Harris. But he's in that group to me in day 2, maybe, from, let's call it, 60 to 100, that you're going to have a slew of receivers go there. And I think Trey Harris is probably going to end up somewhere
I
in
think
there.
he'll go higher than 60. But, yeah, like somewhere on, do you mean like 40 to 80?
You think he can go top 50?
I think he could.
Maybe.
I mean, I don't know where teams are at with A.O. Manor, but like he's one of the next X guys up.
I think A.O. Manor's got more speed.
I think so. Yeah, Trey Harris is a solid player. I think Jackson Dart's getting a little too much love.
That's putting it nicely.
I will say to his other point, I do really like DJ Lagway. I'm a big fan of DJ Lagway.
Yeah, I know you are. He's, what, next year?
No, he's a true freshman.
So he's 2 years from now.
He's 25, 26. He's 2027 draft. So
start tanking now?
Yeah, I mean.
Not the Patriots.
Who else is it? No, somebody else, too. Who's the other quarterback? There's another really good quarterback in that draft. And that draft's going to be unreal because it's going to be Lagway. It's going to be Jeremiah Smith. It's going to be Ryan Williams. It's going to be the guy, the Dylan Stewart from South Carolina, the pass rusher.
Yeah.
This freshman class is unfreaking believable. But I really like DJ Lagway. He's my kind of quarterback. Big guy, can throw it a mile, ton of zip on the ball.
Day one Joe Milton.
Runs around.
You're describing.
Fearless. Yeah, he is kind of day. I mean, we'll see. It's too early to see where he's at. He was kind of up and down this year, but he didn't get the starting reps in camp. That was Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz is gone, so I'm looking forward to see what he can do with the full year, and hopefully some better receivers because a lot of his receivers left. But you know who actually his top receiver is going to be next year? You ready to feel old?
Who?
Eugene Wilson the third.
The third.
Well, the one who played here was the junior.
Was junior.
Yeah. So his son and DJ Lagway. So we'll talk about him for the Pats next year. He'll be draft eligible next year. Eugene Wilson's son. Imagine if they ended up with, or the same team ended up with Asante Samuel and Eugene Wilson, but one's a receiver now, so they'd be running routes against each other.
Just throw Jason Taylor's son in there too, and then you have like an AFC East
Mason Taylor didn't play here.
Yeah, but it's like an AFC.
I get what you're saying. Yeah,
2000s AFC East reunion.
We're getting there. Who else? I think Chad Pennington's son is playing college football somewhere.
Oh my God,
is in the FBS.
We're so old.
I know, it hurts.
All right, so that's
you see McNabb's kid just committed, I think.
Yeah. All right, Chris is in Allentown. What's up, Chris?
Chad Pennington's son is at Marshall, by the way.
Makes sense. Chris, you there?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Thank you guys for taking my call. That's my first time calling in. Usually I have to catch this on the podcast afterwards.
Love it. Thanks for calling.
Appreciate you calling.
So my question is, since it's the time of year for hypotheticals, if something weird happens at the top of the draft, let's say Carter falls to us at 4, or they fall in love with Ashton Genty, or we trip on the way up to the stage and don't get to pick somebody. We go past the 4th overall pick and we don't have either a receiver or a tackle because we had to take someone else. Now we're looking at that second tier, trading up into the end of the first, beginning of the second for these guys. Which is the bigger drop off from your 30s to your 60s, either wide receiver or tackle?
Tackle.
Yeah, I would probably say tackle too. Thanks for the call, Chris. Yeah, I after Ursery, I think is probably in my mind would probably, I guess Simmons with the injury maybe, but after that group goes, Connerly, Ursery, Simmons, after that group goes, I mean, who is the next true tackle? Like, not Wyatt Milam, who's going to move inside the guard, but like,
Is it Belton?
it might be Belton.
I feel like there's one more guy in there that I'm missing. Is it
because it's
Trapillo?
all because that's all that group of Wyatt Milam, Gray Zabel, Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. All those guys are probably going to play guard.
Oh, I guess it would be one of the true right tackles. It would be Cameron Williams or Emory Jones.
I think both those guys might play guard too, especially Emory Jones. Emory Jones' tape at right tackle is
Yeah,
rough.
it was rough. So then it would, I think you're probably between Belton, Trapillo. I know some people like Logan Brown from Kansas.
Yeah,
I'd put him as another step down.
Right, he got kicked out of Wisconsin.
He got in a fight with a teammate. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's probably Belton or Trapillo, depending on what you're looking for, what you like.
that's not a great. That's not great.
Those are
options.
definitely not day one starters. Might not be year one starters. I like Belton. I like his upside. Trapillo's an interesting prospect too.
Yeah,
I'm not expecting either of those guys to start early on.
yeah. It's not a deep tackle class, and I think this is we've talked about this in the past, but because you don't have the Alts, the Fashanos, the Fagawas, those guys bumping down the next tier like you did last year, where you had that Kingsley Sumatia, Roger Rosengard, Patrick Paul tier. That tier doesn't really exist in this draft because all those guys are going higher, right? So this is a tough one in terms of tackle outside the top 40. I think it really drops off after that point.
If they miss on Ursery and Connerly, like they're not. Vidarian Lowe is a candidate to start week 1 next year. Like that's probably strong candidate to start week 1 next year because I don't know where else you're getting somebody. You might bring in somebody later on who competes with them, and maybe like Belton really pops on the left side, but that's an open competition in camp, 100%.
Yeah.
So if they get by 38 and they haven't taken a tackle, they didn't address the need.
There's a lot of receivers in my mind in every draft.
Yeah.
And this draft, I know that people are down on the receiver class this year, especially at the top. I don't think the league is too gung-ho about the receiver class either. But I always feel like some of those day 2 guys, a couple are going to hit. And maybe I'm not saying that they're going to be Ladd McConkey or be like stars,
right.
but a couple of them will be viable NFL receivers. Caller called in about Trey Harris,
right.
Jack Betch from TCU, those types of guys. One of those guys is going to be a good player. Maybe a couple.
Did you see Steve Smith thinks Jack Betch should play tight end?
Well, I would assume he plays big slot, so we're kind of splitting hairs, right? Like he's going to be an inside predominantly receiver. If you want to call him like a move tight end instead of receiver, then we're kind of we're in semantics land there. But Jack Betch, Trey Harris, Ayu Manor, I don't know exactly where he's going to end up. He might go a little bit higher than that 3rd round projection. If you will. I mean, there's other guys I can't think of off the top of my head, but I don't hate any of those guys. Like, I think, where's Jalen Noel going to go? He's probably going to go 2nd round. I think he's a good player. Higgins is probably going to go 2nd round too. He's a good player. Tez Johnson's probably going to go undrafted. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know where Tez Johnson's going to go.
He's not going on top 100.
Right.
We want to talk about outliers.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so this is a good question. I don't know if we've addressed directly.
Yeah.
Maybe we have. But Andrew in Lincoln is a longtime listener. So he just emailed us asking about Will Campbell versus Peter Skoronski. Because obviously Vrabel drafted Skoronski. It was his last 1st-round pick in Tennessee in the 1st round. They drafted Skoronski and immediately moved Skoronski inside the guard. It wasn't even a conversation about...
They drafted him as a guard.
It wasn't even a conversation. He played college tackle. Skoronski's a little shorter.
32 and a quarter.
Yeah, his arms are a little bit shorter. I don't think that he moves as well as Will Campbell. Will Campbell's an excellent athlete. But all in all, I can understand where the emailer is coming from, that aren't those guys kind of similar.
Yeah.
And in one way, if you want to be predictive about it, it kind of says, okay, well, that's a Vrabel guy, right?
Yeah.
If you want to look at it that way. The other way to look at it is Vrabel's going to think Will Campbell's a guard, right? Because he thought Skoronski is a guard. Do you see any comparisons there with Skoronski and Campbell?
I mean, obviously a little bit, but no, I think Skoronski, everybody kind of knew he was a good tackle. He was not the level of tackle Will Campbell was. I've said this in the lead up to the arm measurement, right? If he comes in under 33, it's about asking yourself, do you believe he is a special kind of talent that he can be a trend breaker and reset the margin. Skoronski's good. I don't think anybody ever believed Skoronski was that level of player, that he was going to be this generational talent where he could offset, especially with how short his arms are. Campbell's a little closer. I also think he's above 32 and 5/8, just the whole thing with the combine measurements versus the Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl measurements. The fact that the Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl are similar, and the combine is like an equal outlier from those two. So did the Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl both get the measurements equally wrong? I still don't think Campbell's 33, but I think he's probably closer to 32 and 7/8.
Yeah, maybe that 32 and 7/8 number that's been out there
is
more accurate.
So I mean, I understand it's the same. Like it's similar. I understand where that comp's coming from, but I think the situations are different enough. If anything, is Vrabel maybe looking at it like, we'll try him at tackle, but worst case scenario,
right? Like
Skoronski's the worst case scenario for him with Campbell more than I guess like a blueprint.
I think Campbell's a better player than Skoronski
Yeah.
was.
Oh yeah.
I think he was a better player, but yeah, I can see the comparison. All right, Alexander has two good questions. I want to start with this one first, though. It's actually his second question because I have to get your take on the mock draft heard around the world by Mike Dussault.
That was
taking
awesome.
Ashton Genty 4th overall. But before we talk about the Patriots and Ashton Genty, Alexander thinks that the Giants at 3 overall could take Ashton Genty to replace Saquon Barkley. And I got to think that that's not going to happen.
Not if they don't have a quarterback. Maybe if they get Rodgers, but...
If Joe Shane wasn't willing to pay Saquon Barkley because he doesn't believe in running backs, why would he draft a running back?
Because he learned his lesson. Because he's sick of getting memed to death on the internet. That's why. I'm all for that. Take Ashton Genty at 3. That'd be great. I loved Mike's mock draft. Ultimately, the point of mock drafts, which people forget.
Yeah.
It's two-pronged. It's predictive, but it's also like the exercise, the way I view it, is it's just a tool to help teach people about the prospects in the draft. That's why I usually try to avoid, because I'll do 3 Patriots mock drafts and 3 NFL mock drafts. So I make 6 first-round picks for the Patriots and I make every other pick 3 times. I try my best to avoid repeating players so that I get people informed on as many players as possible, as many situations, right? All right, so if they go this position at the top, now what's next, blah, blah, blah. I took Drake May, and I think just about every one. I think I had 1 Patriots one for Jaden Daniels last year. But that was different. That was a unique scenario. So what would it look like? It's part of the exercise. We're just doing scenarios like we did before, right? Hunter and Carter both off the board. Phone's dead. No trades. Right. Who are you taking? Will that happen? I don't know. It's an exercise. This is all about playing out different scenarios. What if the Patriots just think there's a real chance, I've said this, that regardless of positional value, Ashton Genty is the best football player on the board when the Patriots are picking at 4. What if they just look at that and say it's as simple as that? Will that happen? I doubt it. Should it happen? Probably not. But let's play out the scenario. Let's learn something. The crazier thing was Ursery getting all the way to 68.
Okay.
I had more problem with that.
We discussed that. That's a side note, obviously, to the Genty thing.
But you know what, Mike? He got people worked up. He had some fun with it. It's supposed to be fun. This is all supposed to be fun. Have some fun with it. Good for Mike for having fun with it.
We lose the plot on that a little bit. This is all supposed to just be
Do I lose the plot on it? I love having fun with this stuff.
I think the biggest argument for Ashton Genty is the one you just made. If you truly feel like he's the best football player on the board, then you could make the argument. And we sat here and said it's a tough spot to be in if Hunter and Carter are off the board, because it's like, who do you take?
Right.
Who do you take at that point? That being said, what I keep coming back to with Ashton Genty, because I'm a nerd and I can't get the positional value out of my head, I find it the path to making Ashton Genty work that pick and make him work to be hard for the Patriots.
This team. Yes, I agree with you. Let me ask you this though.
Yeah.
All right. Let's say, and we're kind of idealizing things here. They sign Cam Robinson, and they go receiver with their first pick, whether it's Tet or they move back and they get Burden or they get Golden, right?
Yeah.
So you have a left tackle, you have a receiver.
Okay.
Moving up to 21, 22, 23, whatever you want to call it, Amari and Hampton.
That's the other part about this to me that I can't wrap my head around with Genty.
Yeah.
Not to tease Mike any more than I did yesterday, but it's such a great running back class.
That's my biggest problem.
So, like, is the drop off from Genty to Amari and Hampton to the second day 2 guys, like, it's so much. You can find what they need, which is somebody to push Ramondre Stevenson. Like, Ramondre Stevenson's not a scrub. I know he had a bad year last year, but he's not a scrub.
The drop off from Genty to Hampton is significant, but that's more about Genty being this rare prospect than it is about any of the other guys. You're right. If you're just trying to get a guy who's going to push Stevenson and fill in, give you a really solid number 2 at least.
Right.
You can get that guy early on day 3, frankly. If you want to go day 2.
20 of those guys in this draft.
That might be a little high. It's probably closer to 10.
I think there's probably...
That's legitimately going to push Ramondre
running backs in this class.
Right,
easily.
but draftable running back does not mean is going to push Ramondre Stevenson for the starting job.
3rd or 4th round. If they take one at 77, I'm not going to kill him for it. Depends on who it is. But if they take one at 77, I'm not going to kill him for it. If they take one at 106, I'm not going to kill him for it.
If they take one at 77, my guess is it's Dylan Sampson from Tennessee, who is a well-rounded back, really good in space. And he'd be a good complementary player to Stevenson because he's a little better catching the football, and he played in that widespread Tennessee offense. So they were so good at getting him one-on-one with defenders. So if you're going to run some of that outside stuff that McDaniels runs, right, as a counter to pounding the ball with Stevenson, you can get him one-on-one with slot corners and safety. Yeah, he's going to be really good in those. The other guy at 77 would be Cam Scatabo,
who's picking up some steam again.
Picking up a lot of steam. So that's my day 2 Ashton Genty, honestly. Well, there's 2 day 2 there's second round Ashton Genty is Quinshon Judkins, and third round Ashton Genty or fringe top 100 Ashton Genty is Cam Scatabo. The only reason Cam Scatabo is not going to be a top 50 pick, there's 2 reasons. Late breakout player, and he's going to be a 23, 24-year-old rookie.
Yeah.
But his skill set, and he is underrated as a receiver. Everybody wants to call him Mike Allstott. Do not sleep on how good Cam Scatabo is in the passing game. Don't do it.
Nothing gets him riled up.
Don't do the same with Genty. But he'd be an interesting pick at 77 too.
It makes total sense to me that Cam Scatterboos picking up this late steam, because this is when the coaches get involved.
Yep.
Right. So now all of
they met with him at the combine.
The Vrabels and the Jim Harbaughs and like all these guys are like, that's just a football player. I just want that guy on my team.
Compete level.
I want to go to war with that dude. Right. Like that's what they're all saying.
You can rally, baby.
Right. So the scouts are all saying, yeah, but he's not very fast, and like
he's not very fast.
He's not very big, and he's kind of old, and like
he's not tall. He is thick. He's got the muscle.
He's thick with 2 C's.
Yeah.
But then these coaches come in and they're like, but he's a football player. Like, he's tough. And we're going to build a run game around him. And we're going to run it down people's throats. And then the scouts are like, yeah, but like, he's not really very athletic. And they're like, no. Like,
you don't need athleticism to run over guys.
Yeah.
Can I give you one more running back take while we're on it? You'll actually like this one. So it was reported last week that the Patriots met with Jaquavius Marks, Woody Marks from USC at the USC Pro Day.
Fight on.
Day 3 pick. He's probably going to be somewhere. He'll sneak in the top 200. It'll be like 150, 200 range. Woody Marks is one of the best pure pass-catching backs in this draft. So, the do-it-all guys like Genty and Scatabo, like a guy you're going to throw the football to. He's one of the best receiving backs in this draft. Not a guy you're probably going to hand the ball off to a ton. Not great in between the tackles. A little bit on the smaller side, doesn't necessarily have that great burst, but he is a mismatch in the pass game. Am I reading too much into it to look at that meeting and say, we're going back to early down, passing down backs, and no more splitting by drive, no more splitting by fatigue? It's going to be Ramondre Stevenson, early on, and then when you get into those third downs, when you get in those 2 minutes, it's the James White rule, is essentially what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be Woody Marks. LaQuint Allen from Syracuse is another guy I really like. Brashard Smith from SMU is a converted wide receiver. Maybe it's Antonio Gibson. Maybe they're meeting with guys, but it's Antonio Gibson in the building, another converted wide receiver. But like Woody Marks, I'm not comping him to James White because James White's an unbelievable player. But like when I look at him, that's the guy they would have drafted 5 years ago to be in that role. You're not drafting him to hand the ball off to him from under center. You're drafting him to throw him the football. Am I reading too much into that and saying maybe this is a sign the running back mix is coming back?
No, not totally. And I would also just say schematically, if they want Drake May, or I should say, if Drake May wants to play in the gun, predominantly, and he's not as comfortable under center, and they're going to be more of a spread offense, then you need like a scat back,
right?
Like Ramondre, I don't think is a great fit for that type of offense. Like you want a spread back at that point that's got some speed and got some wiggle. You mentioned the kid from SMU, Brashard Smith, right?
Brashard Smith, and LaQuint Allen from Syracuse.
Yeah, I think Smith. I like Smith a lot. Like explosive guy, right? He's one of those guys that when he gets a crease, he's gonna be he's gonna be gone. LaQuint Allen is really highly regarded for his ability to in blitz pickup.
He's an unreal blocker. Yes,
probably the best blocker in the class. So,
I think so.
He's
besides Genty.
Is Genty just the best at everything?
Yes, he is. I'm not joking. He's maybe not straight line speed. Outside of that, he might be.
So,
but LaQuint Allen.
LaQuint Allen, a day 3 guy, probably that.
All
that
these
can
guys
do
are
that.
same range.
I think there's a handful of those guys. There's one more. I'll look it up. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Brashard Smith, LaQuint Allen.
I want to say like Virginia Tech or something like that.
So Bayshaw Tutton too.
Yes.
So he's not. He has like the
speed,
physical tools,
but
he's not as developed as like a route runner. Also, he has big time ball security issues, both fumbles and like drops. So that's you need to be more reliable in that position to me. I would almost compare him more. So again, they had the early down passing down, and people kind of turned that into big and physical, small and fast.
Yeah.
There are small and fast running backs who aren't good receivers, which generally their early down backs were Antoine Smith, Garrett Blunt, right? Stephen Ridley, like Damian Harris, these bruisers. They did have a couple early down backs during the run who were the smaller, quicker guys.
Dion Lewis. Yeah,
you see where I was going. Tutton to me is more in the Dion Lewis mold than he is the James White mold.
I love Dion Lewis.
People think Dion Lewis is a receiving back. They never threw him the ball.
Dion Lewis.
You didn't really need to. He was really good. That's not taking anything away.
2015 Dion Lewis was like some of the best running back plays the Patriots had.
The play in Dallas where he like ducks under the two defenders. The way that guy
like
could contort his
Corey
body.
Dillon, in 03, 04, and then Dion Lewis in 2015 before he got hurt.
He was so that's where I'd put Tutton.
had some good years in there too.
Right, I'd put Tutton more in that group than I would in the James White group.
I like that group. I like the Dion Lewis group.
The other guy, receiver, were you thinking of Marcus Yarns from Delaware?
Yes.
Yeah. He fits in that group.
So that's the receiving back tutorial.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to blow you away too much here. Not the first round.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't take him a running back in the second round either. But running back in the middle rounds is totally in play. I'm totally cool with
I'm all for that. I would,
third or fourth round running back, sign me up.
I would do that. Whether it's one of the guys talked about, I'll throw Kyle Monangai in there.
Yeah.
I feel like this is their shot to get right on missing on Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah.
Similar player who also, by the way, knows the McCourties and has spoken with the McCourties, Rutgers guy. But like if I know people want them to draft somebody to push Stevenson. I'm kind of like, he had a down year. He was overworked. I think diminishing his workload would help. If they get a guy like LaQuint Allen or Woody Marks in the middle of day 3, and that's the big addition, and they're going to go back to splitting the carries situationally, that would be enough for me.
They need more offense. They need more playmakers. It is what's allowing me to overlook my hatred for running backs is that it's such a great class.
Yeah.
That it's really a great marriage between they have a little bit of a need there and you're leaning into a strength of the class, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting two for the price of one in that respect. And I don't think you should be passing up on that. I feel that way about defensive line. I want a defensive lineman at some point in this draft. I don't necessarily need it to be the first round, but at some point, I would say in their first 4 picks, right? Their top 150 picks. I would like a defensive lineman. I would like a running back. And if they can fit it in, I would like a tight end, if that's possible. I just think these classes are just too good at those 3 spots for the Patriots to sit back and not take anybody in those 3 positions. So I am surprisingly for a running back. How about that?
I like it.
You like that? I also like Bud Light because it's easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. All right, we got a few more calls, a couple emails, and then I do want to go over some of the – I know you love the rule proposals that we have, so we can go over some of those as well here to wrap up the show. But Eldred is in North Carolina. What's up, Eldred? Nice.
All right.
Evan, Alex,
How we doing?
Hey.
I'm doing pretty good. Hey, I'm like this. On 4, if I try to get Smith to come in, I'm taking T-Mac. I'm sorry, man. Y'all keep saying, I know he's running 4-5. But every time I see him, when I'm watching the games, even watch some highlights, he keep running past cornerbacks into the end zone. I ain't talking about on slant. I'm talking about straight away. Straight. In 15 yards. And there's such thing as football speed and 40 speed. And Baldy and Brooks gave a good comparison. Y'all said Drake London and whatever. They said Puka Kapoor, whatever they got for the Rams. So once he gets the ball, he's gone. I think Pick same way. Good hands, soft, and I would take him for. But if they go Will Campbell, what you think about 5th round Dante Thornton out of Tennessee? 6'4", 4'3".
Eldred, I'm gonna go let you go because the phone was giving out.
Phone's still in that. Was there a Puka Nacua Tet McMillan comp in there?
I got the gist, which is why I let you go, Eldred. So he likes Tet McMillan, which I am not shocked by at all because Eldred's favorite receivers since I've known him, DK Metcalf, Quentin Johnston, Tet McMillan. So do you think he has a type?
Yeah.
So I totally get that, Eldred. He made the Puka Nacua comp, which is picking up a little bit of steam, like taller, slimmer Puka Nacua. And
plays faster than he tests.
I have to admit, I kind of see it because Puka Nacua's best trait is catch and run ability, right? He can hit him over the middle of the field on a slant or a dig or a crosser, and he picks up more speed as he runs with the football and after the catch. And he's got great body control. He's got good hands. Puka's shorter, right? Like Tet's more in that big body frame. But I kind of, if you're don't love like comping him to Drake London, like a lot of people do, I don't hate Puka Nacua as a comp for him. I can see it.
Yeah,
I can.
I totally see where he's coming from.
The other one was the kid from Tennessee, the burner, Thompson, the receiver. Ran like a 4.3 at the combine. This is a fast end guy.
And I guess fast and big, or fast and tall.
I'll give him this. He's legit play speed fast.
Yeah.
Like he plays fast and he runs fast. It's not Tyquan Thornton. Like it's not just a 40 thing with him, I would say, but he's only fast. Like he has one thing. It's straight line speed and get down the field. Now, if you wanted to say late on day 3, 5th, 6th round, pair that kind of guy with a dude that throws the deep ball like Drake May.
Yeah.
He has a role on an NFL team. He's just a role player. Like he is a certain type of receiver. He's not a high volume guy. He's going to take the top off the defense, and that's about it. But I wouldn't totally dismiss him because I don't think that it's just the fact that he ran fast at the combine. I think he plays fast. I think he has legit vertical deep speed with Thompson. But the Puka Nacua thing's picking up some steam with Tet because I think people are trying to sell Tet.
Well, I think everybody overcorrected to him being too bad at the combine, and so now they're trying to pull it back the other way.
Yeah, I hear that one. All right. Rio is in Exeter. What's up, Rio?
Nope.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go for it.
Hey, guys. I appreciate you taking my call. Actually, I have to give Alex the credit for inspiring me to call finally because he likes to pick up my my comments in the chat. It was the Jihad Campbell guy.
Nice.
Oh, there you go.
But
I love it.
Yeah. He was at 9 in Daniel Jeremiah's latest mock draft. So, maybe not quite so crazy. But I had just a couple of quick questions. One, why is nobody talking about Kyle Williams at Washington State?
You're just trying to.
They want to double up at receiver.
You're trying to appease my guy here. This is what you're doing. I'm just kidding.
What's the other one? You're going to ask about Ben Sauls?
No, I'm not. No, my other question is actually something Evan said on PU yesterday, which is a point I've been making for months, which is that I think this is a pretty strong draft, actually, just not at the top, and that going from pick 4 to 40, they're looking at similar quality prospects. So, what do you think about completely trading out of number 4? Not trying to get another high pick in the draft. I'll give you one potential scenario, but it doesn't have to be this team. But somebody like the Saints, if they wanted to move up for a quarterback, and you wanted to do say like 40, 71, 112 in next year's first for number 4 overall. So you could, really stock up on picks and, build out the roster since they've got 51 spots they need to fill realistically.
Yeah, thanks for the call. I appreciate you calling in.
The chat finally making it to the phones.
I like the
that.
outside the box thinking. I need a first round pick in this draft. I need them to take a
Well,
first round
I don't know. So like the one he laid out there. So you train with the Saints. So you're gonna have 38 and 40, and you're gonna have 3 third-round picks.
Yep.
So you can get back into the first from there. Even if the Saints get a quarterback, if it's one of these quarterbacks, that first-round pick next year is probably still a top 10 pick. I don't trust the Saints to figure it out. I might do that.
I need a first round pick in this draft.
Well, you're getting us. I think he said second, third, and fourth, right?
Yeah.
So you're still going to pick in the first, but you just have to move. We did this the other week with DK Metcalf, right? About
Swapping picks.
Well, no. Remember I said, well, if you move up to 23 and then you trade 23, and then you said, well, why not just give them what they need to move up to 23, right?
Yeah.
So if you're just getting – the Saints are giving you the ammunition to move back up. You just have to do that other trade. You're still going to pick in the first round. You just have to make another trade.
Well, you'd have to make another trade.
So
are they making the other trade? I don't know.
I would assume so. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if I know I can get back into the 20s and get one of the tackles, I might do that. Because that Saints, I don't think Saints are figuring it out. I really don't. I think that's going to be a high pick next year.
I know you like the pick from next year. I understand where you guys are coming from. I think that there's an energy that needs to shift here. I don't mean to go all Jaylen Brown on you.
Yeah.
But I just feel like if you don't make a pick in the first round, the excitement level for the season just goes way down.
If I know I can't trade back up in the first round, I'm not doing it.
Right, but even if you trade back up into the first round, I guess if it's
the equivalent,
if it's for Connerly or if Matthew Golden or someone that really moves the needle for people, I guess people will be excited. I just think there's a lot to be said. There's some momentum right now with this organization, with Vrabel coming in, with this free agency class that they were able to land on defense, especially. I think there's a lot to be said for the fact that drafting, and I know everybody would do cartwheels for Travis Hunter, but like drafting somebody of that ilk is going to bring some juice. And I think that's important.
Here's the equivalent of it. And I think you said you would do this the other week. Let's say the Vikings call it 23.
Yeah.
And they will give you 23, 1 day 2 pick in their first next year. Would you do it?
Why are the Vikings doing that?
All right, then the Packers at 22. I don't know.
How about the Steelers?
All right, the Steelers at 21.
So Steelers are at 21.
They're going to give.
They have no quarterback.
Yeah. They
may or may not be in on Aaron Rodgers. I think nobody's in on Aaron Rodgers, which I love, by the way. Screw Aaron Rodgers.
Say you're not getting the other pick now because it's a little bit higher. 21 and a future first for 4. Are you doing that?
And a future first for 4?
Yeah, next year's first.
I need more than that.
21 future first and like a 4th.
I would do 21, a 3rd, and a future first for 4.
Okay, so maybe
going from 4 to 21 is big.
Maybe you could swing that, but and to the other part, why is nobody talking about Kyle Williams? It's because he's a little bit older and he only had 1 year of significant production, but dude can play. He should be talked about more. One of the more underrated players in this draft.
Really good route runner.
By the way, Lance Zierlein, one of his most underrated players, and I talked to him at the Combine.
Really good route runner.
Yep.
The Steelers thing has a little bit of legs to me. Steelers have no long-term answer at quarterback.
Do they even have a short-term answer at quarterback?
They don't have a short-term answer, but I assume they will, right? Whether it's bringing back Russ or Aaron Rodgers for a year.
I think Russ is going to Cleveland.
Or Kirk Cousins or whatever. I'm sure they'll have somebody in that seat for a year. Tomlin, Dion, Shador, like I could see that vibe working. Like I could see that mix of characters working in Pittsburgh. He has DK Metcalf and George Pickens to throw the ball to. We talk a lot about with Shador that he's not necessarily a truck. He's more of a game manager. He's more of a trailer. Like he doesn't have to be much of a truck when he has those 2 guys to throw to on the outside. I could see the Steelers trying to be super aggressive and come up for one of the quarterbacks. I could.
You get Steelers first round. Well, no, but they're going to finish over 500 because they always do. So that's not going to be a great pick.
It'll be 20. It'll be 19-20, right? They're going to be...
Well, I guess that plus whatever the Patriots pick ends up being should get you back in the top 10. So if the Patriots pick isn't in the top 10.
I don't know. I just keep an eye out for the Steelers. That's all. All right. Let's go to Deshaun in Virginia. What's up, Deshaun?
Hello, guys. How's it going?
Hey.
One thing that people are not really talking about is that this team has been very, very picky, very choosy when it comes to who they want. Did you know they probably could have turned this team into a Super Bowl team overnight? I mean, literally, because if you actually think about it, they could have signed every single quality free agent and still had a decent amount of money left over. But it's because they feel like they're so entitled, they can feel like they're so picky they can just go about however they want to. And they're not in position to do that. And that's why they're in this position right now as far as trying to figure out who they're going to pick. Or people talk about who they should pick and who they should not pick. If they actually have gone after players instead of thinking about character stuff, because you had to ask yourself, do you actually want to win? Or do you actually care about winning or actually losing? So you have to pick between the two. And character is a bit overrated when it comes to that notion that they want to, put that ahead of production on the field. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I hear you, Deshaun. And I would say the one real criticism I'd have of the offseason so far is passing on that DK Metcalf trade.
Yeah.
They could have offered a higher second-round pick for DK Metcalf. They had all the money in the world to give DK Metcalf the same contract he signed in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Pittsburgh, we literally just talked about, has no quarterback. They have no quarterback. It's not a warm weather city like it was rumored that he wanted to be a part of.
I think Pennsylvania has decent taxes too, right?
It's a very similar, maybe even worse situation than the Patriots. Tomlin and Vrabel, I think Tomlin's got a little bit more of a resume as a head coach, but certainly not very far off in terms of what their reputations are and what they're about as a football coaches. That would be a criticism of this offseason to be, or the biggest. It's not left tackle. I don't know really what they were supposed to do there. Like, I didn't like Dan Moore Jr. Jalen Moore from San Francisco has
he's a
started
backup.
4 years, 12 starts, backing up
Yeah.
Trent Williams. Like, that's not a real option. Cam Robinson's still floating, so that means that his market is sour in some respects. I can't really fault them for not going out there and get a left tackle. And I wouldn't necessarily kill them for Cooper Kupp if they were trying to keep the room a little bit younger, but DK Metcalf, that one I can't wrap my head around. I can't wrap my head around why they wouldn't be in on that player. And I know Tom Curran had some reporting about the fact that they were a little bit worried about, what Deshaun was talking about, that he'd be begging for targets and in Drake May's ear and stuff like that. I think all that stuff is maybe a little bit overrated from the outside looking in, but I think on the inside that stuff does matter to coaches, to teams, and just as two people that have been around this team for the last couple of years, it hasn't always been pretty. And so I can understand why they come from that respect. But I would probably push back on Deshaun a little bit that they could be a Super Bowl team if they had done all of this.
If they had signed literally every player in free agency, I guess, like he said, but that's not realistic.
Chris Godwin.
Chris Godwin, right?
Yeah.
They offered him like $10 million more a year, and the Bucs didn't. They couldn't. So.
Right. The criticism, the critique to me, if you have any of their offseason so far, is Metcalf. Like, they should have been in on Metcalf, and Metcalf, barring DK Metcalf saying, I am not coming to New England, kind of like Brandon Ayuk did, I'm kind of can't figure out why that player is not a Patriot right now. So that's the one criticism. I would not say that they would be a Super Bowl team just by adding DK Metcalf.
No, they'd be better.
It would certainly be better. Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Jalen Milroe at his pro day, by the way. Maybe a guy that should go top 3. Kidding. But completed 45 of 52 passes.
Oh, wow. Throwing against air.
One-man routes. Well, against air, he did have one pass broken up. It hit the roof of the facility. Should have gone outside like Joe Milton. Joe Milton went outside so he wouldn't hit the roof. And he uncorked that insane throw into the wind. It's a great clip. You just hear some guy in the background go, yeah, that'll play.
Well, Mark is in Connecticut. What's up, Mark?
What's going on, guys?
How we doing?
Yeah, we're doing. It's another day. My worry right now is that they've put themselves in a pickle or a bind with not having a left tackle going into the draft. So they're kind of, handcuffing themselves to picking Will Campbell if he's there. That's my worry on that. If Hunter is gone and Abdul Carter are gone. That is my biggest worry, that they're going to do that, because I really want them to, if Hunter or Abdul Carter are gone, I really want them to pull back out of the pick and just move down, still stay in the top 10, and maybe draft Tyler Warren. But that's just my worry, that they've put themselves into this, and I wanted to get you guys' take on that.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. They have, I don't know if backed themselves into a corner is the right way of putting it. They have needs. Every team has needs. They have some glaring ones. I don't think, we were just kicking around trying to kind of come to terms with the fact about their options outside of Hunter and Carter. And I think every team's thinking the same things about this draft. And the one thing that I've kind of pounded the table for since I really started to get into the draft is this is a fits draft. This draft is, this guy fits our culture. This guy fits our vision. This guy fits a role for us. This is not this guy is just the best darn football player at 4 overall, and we're just going to take him above everything else. I don't feel that this is that kind of class. I think that this is one of those classes where you are going to have a vision in place for how this player fits in to your program, whether it's position, whether it's culture, whether it's all those types of things, because those are going to be the deal breakers. It's not going to be talent. You're going to grade Will Campbell and Mason Graham and Tet McMillan and Tyler Warren and Armand Membu are all going to be on a level playing field in terms of grade, based off the tape and by all the things that get baked into the grade. It's going to come down to who you like the most in terms of positional value, in terms of need on the football team, in terms of culture. And that's, I think, what's challenging about this draft is because we aren't on the inside and we don't really know how they rank these guys in those types of ways. And why I keep coming back to Campbell, because he's such an intangible guy, right? His intangibles are through the roof. And so I think that could be a deal breaker. Now, to Mark's point about trading down, I'll say the same thing that I've been saying for 3 months. Everybody in this draft wants to trade down. Everybody wants out of the top 5. Everyone, even the Tennessee Titans at number 1 overall, would take a trade down if it would materialize. As of right now, and it could change, we still got 5-6 weeks to go. Everybody has their original draft pick in the first round, which almost never happens. It's unheard of.
I don't think it's ever happened in the modern era.
Yeah. So everybody has their original pick, and everybody has their original pick because there's no eagerness to trade up. Right. There's nothing drawing teams to trading up in a draft like this. So I don't mean to belabor a point, but when it comes to trade downs, we all would probably take a trade down.
Yeah.
I think that's option number 1 on everybody's bingo card, unless Hunter and Carter, one of those guys miraculously falls to 4. Taking that out of the table, if they're not on the board at 4, what are you doing? We're all picking up the phones, right? We're all trying to materialize or create a trade. That's what everybody's doing. But I think there could be a little bit of wonkiness in the first round because of this. This is going to be a draft where boards are going to be wildly different. Some teams are going to have Matthew Golden as the top receiver. Some teams are going to have Tet McMillan. Some people are going to have Tyler Warren as the top tight end. Some people might have Colson Loveland as the top tight end.
Yeah.
If that's more your type, a Travis Kelce versus a Rob Gronkowski, some teams are going to have a higher grade on Colson Loveland. Some people are going to really love the tools guys like Shamar Stewart, and they're might be willing to overdraft a player like that. I could see Jacksonville at 5 overall. That's now 110% run by analytics and by nerds. They might like a guy like Shamar Stewart because he's a athletic freak and he checks all of those boxes, and I'm sure he has great GPS tracking data and all that good stuff that they all love. So we'll see. But I think this could get a little bit weird because it's going to be who you like. It's a types draft. It's a fits draft. It's a flavor draft. It's not a talent draft. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Tony is in Pennsylvania, I assume. What's up, Tony?
Hey, what's up, bro? Alex, let me just hear me out on this.
All right.
I've been saying this for a few drafts now. But we gotta. You might not agree. I'm hoping you do. But we gotta to take the pressure off of Drake May, and to make up the lack for our offensive line, which is better than last year. We gotta go running back. at number 4. We got to get the best running back at number 4, Ashton Jeanty. And I'm saying this because we could take it back from all the way to our first Super Bowl. We had good, almost great running backs, all the way from Corey Dillon, Antoine Smith, Redmond, Lawrence Maroney, Shane Vereen, Stephen Ridley, and then the last one was Sony Michel. But we gotta take a running back to make up for the pressure that we're gonna get, and that'll take off a lot of pressure from Drake May if we have a run game, and then that'll open it up for these young wide receivers and maybe sign a veteran.
Thanks for the call, Tony.
Maroney didn't win a Super Bowl here.
Maroney did not win a Super Bowl. Also, not a very good player. So Sony Michel won a Super Bowl. Also, not a very good player.
Maroney had a sneaky, really good rookie year. He just fell off quick.
Yeah,
People
he
forget
had a
that.
really good playoff run in 07.
If you go back and you look at the numbers aren't as bad as they're made out to be. He just got hurt.
So Lawrence Maroney and Sony Michel had very similar careers. They both had good rookie years. They both had decent playoff runs.
Yeah.
I think that was Maroney's second year, though, right? 07?
I think his second regular season was solid.
I think he meant me, not you, when he said that you weren't going to like the running back take. But here's the thing with running backs. And there's always the chance, I'll give you an example. Your guy, Derrick Henry, is an exception to the rule. I would say that there's always a chance that a guy can elevate the blocking, right? Like he's so elusive or he's so powerful.
But Maroney had a better year his second year than his first year.
Okay, so it was a little different.
And then he got hurt in 08, and then even in 09 he was solid. He ran for 800 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Not for a first-round pick.
Not for a first-round pick. He was like a solid play. He gets a little too much crap.
No, he doesn't.
People put him in terms of a draft pick. People put him in like the N'Keal Harry, Chad Jackson bust. He's not that kind of bust.
No, I'll give you that.
Like he wasn't worth the pick, but he was still a solid player. He was not a draft bust.
Back to Jeanty in the running back call because that's what he called about. Here
I am defending Lawrence Maroney.
There are a small handful of exceptions of guys that truly elevate blocking, that are immune to bad situations. Yeah. But the vast majority of running backs need functional environments.
For what it's worth, the Boise State offensive line was not good. Jeanty did that now.
Much
another story going from the Mountain West, the NFL. But just to give him credit, because a lot of people, what was Boise State's line? He was probably just running open. No, he created a lot of that on his own.
But my point is not even to crap all over the take.
Yeah.
My point is actually you just shouldn't make the take that way. Right? So the take shouldn't be that Jeanty is going to come into New England and he's going to make a bad offensive line look good.
Right.
That should not be the take. The take should be that we're going to build it run first, right? We're going to draft linemen. We're going to draft Jeanty. And just like the Titans with Derrick Henry, we're going to run the football. And that Jeanty, his special sauce is going to put them over the top.
Right.
Eagles with Saquon Barkley. Lions with Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Like, it's going to make it that much better. 49ers with the healthy Christian McCaffrey. Like, that's the take. That's the vision.
Yeah.
Dallas with young Zeke, right? Like, it's that you're going to build a line and you're going to build it run first and you're going to build it around Jeanty, and then Jeanty is going to take a good situation and make it great.
Right. No, drafting Jeanty does not somehow diminish the need to add to the offensive line.
Right. It doesn't solve the offensive line.
He makes it more important.
Right.
You can go that way if you want, but say, well, if you draft Ashton Jeanty instead of adding a tackle, Vidarian Lowe's not going to be that much better because Ashton Jeanty's back there, right? So, yeah, it's even for me, like Jeanty at 4 would be incredibly tough to justify.
Yeah. If you want, again, it's not saying there isn't a rationalization. The rationalization, though, is that then you are building through the run game. So your investments are now heavily on the offensive line.
If you take Jeanty at 4, you got to trade back up. You trade 38 and 77 to get back into the first round. Now you're definitely drafting Ariante Ursary as your left tackle because he's more of a road grader.
Yeah.
And then you should be taking a guard at 69.
Right.
Like that is what that draft should look like. It should be a running back followed by 2 or even 3 offensive linemen in a row to fill that thing out.
Yeah.
Also, how about a J.R. Redmond reference? Shout out J.R. Redmond.
Listen, J.R. Redmond was a good role player, but if you're gonna start,
he's a role player.
If you're gonna start listing off like we need to have Ashton Genty because of J.R. Redmond and Antoine Smith and Lawrence Maroney and Sony Michel and Stephen Ridley, that's not the argument. You want Ashton Genty because of Corey Dillon,
right? Yes. Ashton Genty is more. He would be better. They don't win 36 without J.R. Redmond though. That final drive, he came up big.
I'm not throwing shade at J.R. Redmond.
No, I get what you're saying. No, you're not. Like, and I'm a huge Antoine Smith fan. I really am.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the more underrated Patriots of all time. He was a high-level platoon back.
Yeah.
That's like, you don't get Antoine Smith without Kevin Falk, right? Corey Dillon was the backfield. The famous Bill Belichick. Are you opposed to a feature back?
Yeah.
And Bill, like, because Corey Dillon ran for 1,400 yards and 2,000, whatever.
Yeah.
Like where he's just like, well, Corey Dillon's a workhorse. You're not drafting Ashton Genty to be Antoine Smith or Sony Michel.
If he's
or
Antoine Smith
guys.
or Sony Michel, with all due respect, that's a major problem.
Well, it's like we were just talking about Lawrence Maroney. He's still a solid player, but not for what the pick was.
Yeah.
No, you're drafting him to be Corey Dillon.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
At least
maybe
Corey
even better
Dillon.
than Corey Dillon.
Well, apparently Corey Dillon's not a Hall of Famer, which I don't entirely agree with. But if you're taking a running back 4th overall, he should be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. Brad is in Ohio. What's up, Brad?
Hey, guys. How you doing today?
Real quick, Brad, I got to throw Mike Cloud in there. Shout out Mike Cloud. Go ahead.
Oh, my God. All right, Brad, go ahead.
Okay. Just got a couple thoughts here, guys, that, see what you'll hash over, because you're always touching on good points. Evan said something about we need to focus on players that are a best fit, opposed to worrying about anything else about, where we're drafting them and all that. They need to be a fit to our team, especially on offense. So I'm wondering if you think we should double dip a tight end. And for me, again, the only running back that fits our offense is Donovan Edwards. You can put him out in the X and, let him run down the field. He can run routes like a receiver. So you can put him in the slot. And there's just so many things you can do with Donovan. And he ran a 4.4 at the combine.
Yeah, he ran well. We're both Donovan Edwards fans here.
Yeah.
Where do you think he'll even be picked at? And do you think we'll have a viable opportunity to get him? And then I was thinking also about the only person I would draft at 4 would be Travis Hunter as a receiver. And Graham only bench pressed 24 reps, and the other Michigan guy only did 22. What is that, Evan? That's like 10 reps, 11 less than what Donald did, Aaron Donald. So that's a big difference in strength. I mean, so that's my questions, guys. So
Thanks,
you.
Brad.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call. We're both Donovan Edwards guys.
Yeah.
Good player. I think his ceiling is probably the 4th round.
4th, 5th round. I wouldn't say he's the only player in this draft that fits that role. He might be one of the better options on day 3, but like Cam Scatabo, similar.
Yeah.
I wouldn't double up at tight end to the other question too.
Yeah.
If you want to get one project tight end, that's fine. But I've been big on this. They need their draft picks to play.
Yeah.
They need guys that are going to make an impact. And you already have Hunter and Hooper. So you're going to get 2 rookie tight ends on the field. If they want to, like in the 7th round, take like a Gavin Bartholomew, and that's the double dip, whatever. But they should be fine in this draft taking one tight end.
Yeah, I love the tight end class. I'm really high on it. And when I did my mock draft, I was trying to talk myself into taking tight ends, 3rd, 4th round, and I was just like, but like he's not going to play.
Yeah.
Realistically, especially at that position where typically it's a year 1 learning curve for a lot of tight ends making the jump from college to the NFL. They're asked to do a lot more blocking and a lot more of the details in the NFL than they are in college. And in receiving, I mean, honestly, like they don't throw to tight ends in college either.
Yeah.
Like it's just all of it. Like all of it is different, in a higher volume than in the college game. So if you envision a tight end in this offense and then you think about, okay, they're going to have to earn playing time from 2 stable veteran guys in Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, who already have a rapport with the quarterback, that have already played in this offense before. Like it's just hard to get there in my mind that guy would do it. So I took Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame, in the 5th round of my mock. A, because of where he's going to go. Early day 3, I think, is a safe bet. And then B, because he's coming off that ACL, like maybe he is a couple years removed from it, and he's an even better player, in 2026. So
Mitchell Evans?
Yeah, from Notre Dame. Tore his ACL, 2023.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, he played last year.
No, he played last year, but you always have that, like, you're removed from the ACL thing.
Right, okay. I was going to say, he played in a national championship game.
Yeah,
no, I like Mitchell Evans, and he can block.
Yeah.
So he's going to be able to get on the field because he'd probably be their best blocking tight end.
He'd probably be your third blocking tight end, tight end as a rookie. Maybe get him into some goal line packages.
That's the kind of guy.
And stuff.
That's the kind of guy they should be looking for.
Yeah, I
honestly,
agree.
If they want to double up at tight end, Rob Utes. That's what you're doing. You take a developmental tight end,
or a fullback,
a Mitchell.
Yeah.
Well, no, you take like a Mitchell Evans or a Terrence Ferguson or somebody early on day 3, and then you take Rob Utes later, who's going to be kind of a move fullback, but he can line up on the line of scrimmage, put his hand in the dirt, and do all that if you need him to as well. That's how I would double up a tight end.
All of a sudden, we got all these calls coming in.
This is great.
I love it.
We have to do a rapid fire lightning round.
Tyler's in Cincinnati. What's up, Tyler?
Lightning round.
Hey guys.
Hey.
I was just wanting to know if you guys had looked at potentially like late round pick, maybe like Tommy Mellott or Tommy Malo. He's a quarterback, former wide receiver from like Montana State. I was just wondering if you guys looked into him and all and what your thoughts were for like a late round pick. Thanks.
Yeah, I've heard of Tommy Merlot.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
I mean, we're still chasing Edelman. He's an option quarterback, had a ton of success at the FCS level. He's played a little bit of wide receiver. He's going to be a late day 3 pick or UDFA, and it's him and is it Efton Chisholm, right?
Yeah,
like that. Who I think was a quarterback before moving to receiver. He is a receiver.
Tommy Merlot is at one of the All-Star games. I don't remember which one it was. But yeah, I saw him a little bit at, I don't know if it was the Shrine or the Senior Bowl. I feel like he was at one of those games. I could be wrong. But, yeah, I mean, we're chasing Edelman. You're right.
Yeah, and I mean, look, bring him in as a UDFA, see what happens. Sure, like, I'm not against
those
it.
Guys are, theoretically, with McDaniels back,
in play.
Gunnar Olszewski, Riley McCarron, Braxton Berrios, Julian Edelman. Like, those guys are all kind of back in play, right?
Yeah.
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 Why are you laughing?
You know why I'm laughing.
All right. Chet is in Philly. What's up, Chet?
Hey, what's up, guys? I appreciate you guys taking the call.
No problem. How you doing?
Good. Well, Evan, big fan of you. I follow you on Twitter. You bring me a lot of my stuff. What I'll say is, first off, like, I really appreciate that you guys don't do a lot of the gaslighting that we get from the regular radio. But, to actually talk football, as much as, we're going off about the whole Mac Hollins thing and all of the lack of super high-end depth, I'm happy that you guys actually realized and talked about already that, like, there's not going to be a superstar guy that's going to leave their good situation and try to come to this rebuilding team, and we're going to actually have to build from the ground up. Now, I will also say, like, we still have a couple pieces that, like, we can probably take a couple mid-round flyers, like, all of those Trey Harris-type guys, those round 2, round 3 type receivers, those Jaden Higgins guys in round 2 or round 3, try to take a flyer on one of those and actually hope that, like, a couple of these young guys develop. Like, a lot of people aren't really talking about him, but when I watched him in the preseason last year, the guy that I would have thought would have got cut after the preseason, they stole Jaquay Jackson away last year. And I was a really big fan of watching him in the preseason. That was the guy that caught the post from Joe Milton in the preseason, if you remember him.
Yep.
And they kept him around all year despite him being hurt and being like a small school prospect. So I'm very intrigued to how good he could be, and maybe he might be that downfield threat because he has that kind of Calvin Ridley. I don't know if you noticed the social media. His name is Quay Red. He played Division II football at California University of PA, and his nickname was Quay Red because people say he used to move like Calvin Ridley. So I don't know. I feel like maybe he could be one of those guys that might make a little splash as the person that nobody's really thinking about in his offense.
Thanks for the call, Chad. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you guys following us and everything. I always say the same thing about guys like that. Like, great if it happens.
Yeah.
I'm not counting on it by any means. But, yeah, look, I understand that some people think I give this take and, I'm trying to carry water and things like that. But there's just a long way to go. And you and I are big draft guys, so to us, the draft is a big thing. You know, you add a lot of talent if you're good at it through the draft. And I understand that people, Patriots Nation, is probably a little bit skeptical about their ability to draft, especially outside the first round. You know, Christian Gonzalez and Drake May were great picks, but they don't really have much to show out of those two classes outside of those two guys. So I get all of that, but I would just say, you know, let's wait until we overreact about the lack of weapons until after, you know, April 26th when the draft is over, because if Travis Hunter's on this football team, if Tet McMillan's on this football team, if Luther Burden's on this football team, it's going to change how we feel about the team.
Should.
And they're going to take a receiver in the top 100. I feel confident saying that. I don't know if it'll be first round, third round. I don't know where, but they're going to take a receiver, and hopefully they take the right one, right? And I understand that hasn't gone well for them. I totally do. But I don't want to get out over my skis on week one, you know, free agency. Where are the weapons? They're neglecting the offense. And then in April, all of a sudden, you know, Travis Hunter is being presented on the field as their first round pick. We're all going to look like morons. So just, let's see what happens.
Look, you can do it all collectively. Is what I'll tell people. Why aren't you talking about it? Because like you said, it's in process. And we even talked about it earlier. We don't love that they missed out on DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
If they don't have receivers, if they don't have receivers today, they're still not going to have receivers on April 27th. Addressing it on April 27th is no different, right? It's even more so. So, I mean, I'm with you. I think they'll add somebody. Will it be enough? I don't know, but yeah, I'm not going to fault them for not drafting receivers before the draft. I'll talk about DK Metcalf because I think that was a missed opportunity, but I'm not going to go further than that yet.
Yeah, I know we have these two last calls and we got to wrap it up, but just really quickly, I also have come to terms with the fact, I guess, that they might need proof of concept before they draw the DK Metcalf, the Chris Godwins. And by proof of concept, I go back to the Bills. I know, Josh Allen, yada, yada, yada.
The golden boy.
Josh Allen, in his second season, goes 10-6, makes the playoffs. I don't think they won the playoff game, but they were in the playoffs.
Is that the year they lost to the Ravens?
They lost in the wild card round, I believe, but don't quote me on that. The main point is that they're 10-6. They have proof of concept. Josh Allen turns a corner. He looks like a franchise quarterback. The next offseason, they traded for Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
Right? And Stephon Diggs opted to go to Buffalo. Like, he said, yes, I will go here because of Josh Allen and because of the program that they were already building.
In the contract.
So, sure. But that goes hand in hand with everybody. If you build it, they will come. Right?
Yeah.
So if they have a nice season next year, it doesn't have to be 10-6 in the playoffs, but let's say they're 8-9.
I think they might have sneak in the playoffs for what you're talking about.
But let's say they're 8-9, and Drake May throws for 4,000 yards and looks like an absolute dog and is just a dude. Right?
With this defense, they should not go 8-9 if Drake May is throwing for 4,000
yards. Okay, but I'm just saying, just play out the scenario.
Okay.
Drake May has a great second season. Mike Vrabel is what we think Mike Vrabel is as a head coach. They are building. They are on this upward trajectory. Then you can draw the big fish at wide receiver. So it might not be this offseason, but maybe it's next offseason, and that's okay. That's the timeline. That's the timeline that they're on right now. Ryan is in Texas. What's up, Ryan? We got to be quick with these calls. What's up?
Hey guys, I'll try to make it quick here.
Thank you.
So, would you guys rather see Travis Carter at number 4 if they're available, but would you rather see Tet at 4 and wait for Connolly or Ursary potentially trading back up into the first round with that third round pick that we have? Or are you guys taking a tackle at 4 to kind of address the issues that we have on the left side of the line?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. That seems to be the number one question. I think we're both in the same camp. We're taking Hunter or Carter if they're there.
Yeah. Carter, Hunter, 1, 2 in that order.
If they're not there, I think the Patriots will take Will Campbell. That's what I think
so
they
too.
will do. But I would probably take a receiver there still.
You would take Tet McMillan.
I'd probably take Tet McMillan.
We did this exercise earlier. You said you would take Campbell.
I think they'll take Campbell.
No, you said you would. We did. I specifically said you, Evan, are on the clock.
I am all over the place now. I don't know.
I said you're on the clock.
We're getting.
We did this exact exercise. You personally are running the team.
Okay.
You're on the clock. Carter and Hunter are both gone. There's no calls.
Okay. I see
and you
what
said
you're saying.
Campbell.
Okay. All right. You're right. I did say Campbell.
Yeah.
I'll stick with Campbell.
Okay.
But what I'd rather happen would obviously be to take a guy like Travis Hunter and then trade back up into the first round.
Yeah.
But if that's not a scenario, Campbell. Okay. There we go. Is that
We did that exact exercise. I'm just making sure you're consistent.
Yeah.
I don't want people to accuse you of changing your opinion.
Oh, they do it all the time.
I know.
Anyway.
I'm trying to help you out. I'm looking out for you.
Okay. Ben is in Philly. What's up, Ben?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Hey.
Doing well. I'm just curious on your take. Do you think it is possible for the Patriots to develop a wide receiver at this point? Or is a player like Will Campbell just more dependable because of their development history?
Yeah, thanks for the call, Ben. This was something else that we talked about yesterday on PU that is starting to I don't know if irritates the right word, but I don't really understand what their failure with N'Keal Harry or Tyquan Thornton has anything to do with Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is not here when those things happen. He was not the head coach.
Well, Josh McDaniels was.
He was not the who what I think is the lead football czar in New England, Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel did not draft those guys. He did not coach those guys. It has nothing to do with him.
Well, Josh McDaniels was here for N'Keal Harry.
Sure, but my point being is just I'm not going to hold N'Keal Harry, Tyquan Thornton, Aaron Dobson, Chad Jackson. I'm not going to hold
Jalen Polk,
Bethel Johnson. I'm not going to hold those guys against Mike Vrabel. I'm not.
I'll say this. Todd Downing's never coached receivers before. Very experienced offensive coach, but he's never been hands-on with receivers in that role. We'll see. It's a variable.
I just until they burn me on a receiver and it fails.
No, it's a different group. That's absolutely
group.
fair. It is a different group, but it's not a group. I guess it is and it isn't. Vrabel
developed A.J. Brown.
Who was Downing wasn't the OC for that, right?
That might have been Arthur Smith.
That was Arthur Smith. Okay.
Yeah.
So Vrabel has, Downing hasn't. McDaniels, there's a weird track record there because missed on guys like Harry, but also developed Jacoby Myers. So the track record for this group, I'm with you. Don't put it on the old group. This group that's in charge has a mixed track record of doing it. There's some hits, there's some misses.
That's fair.
So we'll see.
That's fair.
I don't think your point's not wrong, but that also doesn't mean that they can develop a guy.
If you want to go to Vrabel's time in Tennessee, I know we got to wrap, but if you want to go to Vrabel's time in Tennessee and hold him accountable for those picks, I think he was forced into trading A.J. Brown and drafting Treylon Burks, but we both at the time were like, what are they doing?
That was the birth of one of our favorite idioms.
Yeah.
The mystery box in the boat.
Yeah. Treylon Burks was not the right pick there.
He was not the boat.
No. So we can hold him accountable for all of that. But I also am not going to hold N'Keal Harry against him. I'm not going to say that this regime has an issue with developing receivers.
But Josh McDaniels was here for N'Keal Harry.
I guess.
But he was also here for Jacoby Myers. It depends.
I know, but he was here as the offensive coordinator. We all know who was making the calls when he was here. I mean, he wasn't the one making the picks.
I don't think. My point is, you can't say anything definitive about this group when it comes to wide receivers. There's not enough evidence one way or the other.
I don't have any confidence in what the Patriots should do at 4 overall, apparently, but Bridgestone does. And it's important to have when you're on the road with Bridgestone's tires on your car, truck, SUV, or minivan. You're riding on tires you can trust. Bridgestone tires are engineered to give you peace of mind so you can focus on enjoying the journey. So whether you're on your morning commute, a cross-country road trip, or a relaxing Sunday drive, Bridgestone tires will be with you wherever life's roads may lead. Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Available now at Sullivan Tire. Thanks so much for watching and for all the phone calls there at the end. We tried to hang on for as long as we could, but we got to go. We'll be back next week right here, same time, same place, for another Catch-22 and Unfiltered tomorrow. So we're still rolling here on Patriots.com, so we'll see you guys then.
Bye.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.